Chapter 483. The True Immortal Inside the Attic. Guan was reading a book, his divine sense watching Zhu Shi leave the Third Medicine Valley. This girl's temperament. Guan didn't quite know what to say about it. Could he really call her a fellow practitioner when he himself wasn't this timid? He didn't forcibly stop Zhu Zai's decision. Perhaps he truly could protect her. But these past few years, Zhu Shi had clearly been uncomfortable, especially after her identity as Sheng Tian was revealed. Her heart was tormented, and Guan could hear the anxious voices within her. So be it. Let her go then. After all, she's a Saint Heaven reincarnation. She should be able to turn danger into safety. But does she think that I can't resist the heavenly Tao? Guan thought to himself, not with a sense of regret but pondering. He wasn't arrogant enough to think he was invincible. There was still so much he couldn't do, and every time he encountered such things, he felt motivated. He could keep saving the celestial spirit great world, but he couldn't yet see through the heavenly Tao behind the scenes. The heaven-encompassing free immortal might be able to do as he pleased within the universe, but only within the universe. What lies beyond the universe? Guan continued reading while pondering these questions. He didn't attempt to divine Zhu Zai's future fortunes. Ever since the incident with Xiaochuan's reincarnation, Head tried not to predict the future as much as possible, to avoid knowing too much and wanting to change things, bringing about more variables. Actually, not knowing the future might be a good thing. At least it leaves room for anticipation. Guan had sought too much foresight before, and it made him feel life was dull. Perhaps in the next era, I can consider staying somewhere else. Guan silently thought, the corners of his mouth curving upwards. He, too, started looking forward to the future, to a completely new life. As autumn gave way to winter, the snow blanketed the land in white. In the mountain god temple within the North Sea mountain ridge, profound mysterious Zhenren stood on the eaves, gazing at the distant battle in the sky. The fierce wind raged. The forest shook violently, wave after wave, a sight of magnificent grandeur. Yet profound mysterious Zhenren's figure was immovable, his eyes shining brightly. Despite having stood guard here for over 1,000 years, making his Tao heart even more steadfast, deep down, he still harbored the blood of one who longed for power. He was the most talented individual in the history of Mount Sanqing. It was just too bad that Li Ye had stolen his thunder, becoming the most celebrated prodigy of the Li family and Mount Sanqing. Nevertheless, staying here hadn't halted his progress. With the help of the mountain god, he had achieved nirvana and stood on the eaves with the demeanor of an immortal. Inside the courtyard, a Taoist child around 12 or 13 years old squatted in front of the pill furnace, fanning the flame. Wisps of blue smoke drifted up. From time to time he wiped sweat from his brow, or looked up at profound mysterious Zhenren on the eaves. After a good while, the Taoist child couldn't help but ask, "Master, what are you watching? Isn't this fierce wind just a natural wind of the world?" The forest was dense, and he could not see the situation at the horizon, thinking it might rain soon. Profound mystery, Zhenren replied. "It's nothing, your teacher was just watching two sparrows fighting. As for this wind, there are plenty of strange winds in the North Sea mountain ridge. You'll encounter them yourself later on." The Taoist child's eyes widened, and he asked curiously, "Such a big wind, and there are still sparrows fighting? I've never seen sparrows fight before. I want to watch too. Just focus on refining your pills and don't forget why you came." Profound mystery, Zhenren answered offhandedly, and the Taoist child could only pout in response. The Taoist child followed up with a question. "Master, why hasn't the mountain god appeared yet?" "He will appear when it's time. Perhaps your heart is not sincere enough." "Then, Master, is the true immortal inheritance those people talked about a few days ago real? Why don't they believe in the mountain god?" "You'll understand when you grow up. Many people are not in pursuit of the responsibilities of immortal gods, they just seek the power of immortal gods. You should also think carefully about what kind of person you truly want to become." Profound mystery, Zhenren spoke calmly, his tone like a breeze that settled the Taoist child's heart into tranquility. Even the persistent strong winds could not disrupt the tranquility within the courtyard. A figure entered the temple precinct. It was He Qingsong. He Qingsong first looked at profound mystery Zhenren on the eaves, then turned his gaze to the Taoist child. Profound Mystery Jinren turned his head to look at He Qingsong, frowning. For some reason, he felt very uncomfortable the moment he saw He Qingsong. That feeling was strange even to him. Do I give you a very uncomfortable sensation? He Qingsong asked, his gaze then drifting towards Profound Mystery Jinren. Profound Mystery Jinren appeared out of nowhere in front of him, and the Daoist child looked nervously at He Qingsong, thinking to himself, could this person be a demon? Who are you and what brings you here? Profound Mystery Jinren stared at He Qingsong and asked. He Qingsong answered, my name is He Qingsong. The name isn't important. The significance of this body is to act for great heaven and earth. You've been too close to an existence that conflicts with heavenly Tao, which is why you subconsciously feel hostility towards me. This is also the emotion you experience after facing the will of heavenly Tao's rejection. What do you mean? Who is rejected by the heavenly Tao? Profound Mystery Jinren frowned. He Qingsong, unchanging in expression, said, you know very well who he is. I can only tell you that there truly are immortals in the world, but he is not one. Immortals, being high above, cannot be glimpsed by mortal spirits. You've already entered the nirvana realm, and are on the path to pursue immortality. You should revere immortals. Profound Mystery Jinren coldly said. Aren't immortals supposed to be the protectors of all beings? Why must they clearly delineate themselves from sentient beings? That's just the thinking of mortals. Who said immortals have to protect sentient beings? Immortals create living beings, create heaven and earth, create everything. In the eyes of immortals, all things are equal. Your current resentment is misguided. The current suffering of sentient beings is due to their excessive pressure on heaven and earth, which is the self-protective consciousness of heaven and earth. The unending calamities are just because heaven and earth want to unload the burden. Sentient beings are that burden. And immortals recognize and support heaven and earth in shedding that burden. The words of He Qingsong made Profound Mystery Jinren's face turn ugly, and they rocked his Tao heart. Are immortals really like that? He Qingsong lifted his right hand, and a broken piece of white jade appeared in it. He spoke with sincere gravity. You have a heart of great compassion, rare in this world. You are indeed destined for an immortal fate. This jade is called Celestial Tao Jade. It can avert all tragedies, but it also requires a price to be paid. I gift this jade to you. Whether to use it, and how to use it, is up to you. As his words fell, the Celestial Tao Jade flew into the hands of Profound Mystery Jinren. Seeing He Qingsong turn to leave, Profound Mystery Jinren asked, did you choose me because of him? Without stopping, He Qingsong said without looking back, your heart yearns for the immortal, and actually, the immortal can also feel it. To use your own words to your disciple just now, you can't feel the immortal, simply because the time has not yet come. If you want to become an immortal, you must understand everything, must go through tribulations of the mortal world. Only when you are not swayed by emotions do you qualify to become an immortal. After stepping out the door, he disappeared into thin air, as if he had never been there. Profound Mystery Jinren looked down at the Celestial Tao Jade in his hand, his brow deeply furrowed. The Daoist child came to his side, curiously looking at the Celestial Tao Jade, asking, Master, is what he said the truth? Is the mountain god not an immortal? Clutching the Celestial Tao Jade, Profound Mystery Jinren took a deep breath and said, Disciple, your teacher will teach you a lesson today. Do not listen to what others say. Look at what they do. Your faith should not be defined by anyone else. Whatever you believe in, that is the truth. Chapter 484 Savior in the Hidden Spirit Palace. Guan watched as Chun Luo sparred with the deep-sea dragon carp, his mood lifted by the words of Profound Mysterious Jinren. He hadn't chosen the wrong person. As for He Qingsong, he didn't pay much attention to him because he saw many people like He Qingsong spreading the concept of immortality everywhere, and their numbers were growing. It was as if they had suddenly come to a realization. Their bodies entwined with the celestial Tao destiny. These individuals wanted to convince all living beings of the existence of immortals, and to revere the heavenly Tao. Because of this, they intended to topple everything, to knock down the images of Holy Court, supporting Tao Sword Venerable, and Yang Immortal Emperor as the strongest figures in the hearts of the people. making them understand that the heavenly Tao decides everything. According to this trend, given enough time, all beings would believe in the heavenly Tao, believe in destiny, and any powerful existence would also fall in the hearts of the people, planting a seed in their minds. Apart from the heavenly Tao and immortals, nothing is eternal. There would no more be a ruling force as enduring as the Holy Court, because even those in the Holy Court would believe that it could be overturned, as long as the celestial mandate was with them. Bang! Chen Luo hit the ground hard, causing the surface to cave in and form a web-like fissure. Drained of spiritual power and chi power, his long hair was disheveled as he let out a breath, unable to stand up again. Su Ling appeared by his side. She did not pity Chen Luo but instead teased him. See, debasing your own cultivation level. Even if you've recovered now, your strength isn't what it used to be. The 100 years you've missed might take even longer to make up for. Chen Luo gave a bitter smile. I really was too impulsive before. After you died, all I could think about was chasing after you. Hearing this, Su Ling's teasing mood dissolved. She squatted, helping him up. The deep-sea dragon carp, clad in white, descended from the sky. Though he still appeared feminine, his temperament was no longer as fragile as before. The arrival of Chen Luo had deepened his understanding of gender differences, and he too was in search of his true self. You are very capable. If our cultivation levels were equal, I might not be your match, the deep-sea dragon carp said earnestly. Supported by Su Ling, Chen Luo smiled bitterly. Don't comfort me, I know the gap between us is big. Don't worry, I won't be discouraged. The deep-sea dragon carp didn't know what to say, as he indeed was comforting Chen Luo. During their previous sparring, he did not feel any pressure. Guan lay in a rocking chair, beginning to close his eyes to rest. In every medicine valley and dojo, there were people cultivating, and he was anticipating the roles these individuals would play in the future. Being the heaven-encompassing free immortal, even though he couldn't directly extend the limit of others' lifespans, his influence would ensure that those around him were stronger than what their original destiny dictated. It wasn't that geniuses were gravitating toward Guan, but rather he was creating geniuses, and those who successfully approached him were great fortune seekers. He was the strongest in the celestial spirit great world, and no matter how much he remained hidden, he would influence the entire world. After chatting for a while, the deep-sea dragon carp, Chen Luo, and Su Ling began discussing their aspirations. Chen Luo simply wanted to become stronger to protect his son, Chen Chuan. Su Ling had greater ambitions, she sought revenge. The deep-sea dragon carp wanted to unify the ocean and establish order to better protect the hidden spirit palace. Beneath the blue sky, the ocean churned majestically. Zhu Luo Sword Monarch stood proudly above the clouds, a book of theory of heaven floating in front of him. With a smile lift at the corners of his mouth and an arrogant expression, he looked down disdainfully at the more than a dozen people below him. Your theories of heaven now belong to me. Scram, you trash. Even if you cultivate for 10 million more years, you'll never be worthy of touching the theory of heaven. Zhu Luo Sword Monarch spoke bluntly, his words filled with mockery. Despite his peaceful demeanor in the Third Medicine Valley, upon his arrival, he even dared to challenge supporting Dao Sword Venerable. The faces of the man in the black robe and his followers were extremely ugly. They all had injuries, and some were even reduced to just souls. Filled with anger and fear, they glared at Zhu Luo Sword Monarch. The overwhelming power of Zhu Luo Sword Monarch left them in despair, and at that moment, none dared to speak. They could only look towards the man in the black robe, waiting for him to make a decision. The man in the black robe looked at the sword in his hand, its blade enveloped by a faint layer of sword chi. The sword chi was so heavy that he felt it was impossible for him in this lifetime to match Zhu Luo Sword Monarch in the sword Dao. He took a deep breath and said, "Retreat." After he spoke, he turned and left, with the other cultivators hastily following him. In the distance, on an island, a group of cultivators and great demons gathered, discussing the recent great battle, and Yang Jian was also present. Yang Jian gazed at Zhu Luo Sword Monarch from afar, filled with emotion. What a powerful sword Dao! He even felt that Zhu Luo Sword Monarch was invincible. However, the thought that Zhu Luo Sword Monarch had once stayed in the Third Medicine Valley for hundreds of years made him speculate just how high his master's Dao practice might be. It was said that the Saint Heaven reincarnation also appeared in the Third Medicine Valley and apprenticed under his master. Yang Jian's heart began to waver, suddenly doubting whether leaving the Third Medicine Valley had been a mistake. If he had stayed, might he have encountered greater opportunities? He could not be sure, but he could at least confirm one thing. The cultivation techniques and divine skills his master had taught him were enough to let him surpass reincarnation. Zhu Luo Sword Monarch now holds 6 volumes of the Theory of Heaven, and he is not far from receiving the true immortal inheritance. He doesn't even seem to be looking for the Theory of Heaven, simply waiting for others to challenge him. It is said that he has reached the 9th heaven of the immortal path. I've heard that he comes from another great heaven and earth, but was suppressed by the supporting Dao Sword Venerable as soon as he arrived. Although supporting Dao Sword Venerable is strong, he isn't the divinely appointed savior. It's unclear if this person might be the savior. Hearing the surrounding discussions, Yang Jian frowned. He could feel the reverence the world held for his master weakening, as people began to hope for another savior. Knowing his master would welcome such a development, but he also felt that some force behind the scenes was driving this trend, which did not bode well. As seasons changed and time passed, 200 years quickly went by. At the edge of the Third Medicine Valley, inside a small pavilion on a mountaintop, Guan and LV Batian sat facing each other, drinking wine. Guan listened to LV Batian's complaints while silently calling up his attribute panel. Name: Guan. Lifespan: 1913/7 450, 227, 042. Physique: primordial infinite body. Cultivation level: Luotian Zizai immortal realm perfection, 7,450,000,000 years lifespan. Getting closer and closer to 10 billion years. It had been a long time since he had activated the lifespan feature, and he didn't know what kind of feature would unlock this time. At the same time, Guan was also contemplating when to break through and where to go for the breakthrough. He had an intuition that another breakthrough might alert the celestial spirit god, or even the mysterious group of immortal gods. Although the lifespan barrier could hide his presence, if he were the celestial spirit god and sensed a threat, he would certainly do everything possible to eliminate potential threats. And he now had a substantial reputation that required caution. LV Batian looked up at Guan and asked, Guan, what do you think? Do you think they're being too greedy? Chapter 485. Land of Reincarnation. Upon hearing LV Batian's inquiry, Guan withdrew his thoughts and replied, Indeed, I was too greedy. Supreme Sect had its eye on the true immortal inheritance, wanting to win over Zhu Luo Sword Monarch or to persuade Guan to leave the true immortal inheritance within Supreme Sect, even if it was just for his disciples. Faced with Guan's answer, LV Batian's face immediately showed a bit of embarrassment. He felt insecure, suspecting that nothing could escape Guan's all-seeing eye. Although he had rejected the Elder Hall's proposal, he hadn't been resolute. If Guan had been secretly observing, he might have seen right through his intentions. As Supreme Sect was rapidly strengthening, those who had experienced the entire process of its development inevitably became arrogant. And LV Batian was no exception. Even though he always reminded himself to be humble and to be grateful to Guan, faced with greater temptations, he couldn't help but fantasize. Would Supreme Sect not have hoped to replace the Holy Court, the Immortal Dynasty, if they were to produce a true immortal? It was evident to the discerning that both the Immortal Dynasty and the Holy Court were going to collapse, with the Celestial Mandate belonging to other sections. In these 200 years, the talk of Celestial Mandate had spread widely, even within Supreme Sect, leading many to believe without doubt, including LV Batian. LV Batian felt that the Celestial Mandate was upon Supreme Sect. He believed no other sects in the world could rival Supreme Sect's rate of growth. Though the Profound Abyss Divine Dynasty and Celestial Demon Great Sect were strong, those were powers descended from outer heaven, not a product of normal development. Watching the changes in LV Batian's expression, Guan also felt a wave of emotion. Truly, times change and people with them. However, he could understand the thoughts of Supreme Sect's upper echelons. For over 1,000 years, after learning of Guan's true identity, Supreme Sect tried its best not to bother him, and even helped him deal with many unnecessary trivialities. Perhaps Supreme Sect thought that seizing the true immortal inheritance was just a small effort for Guan, not very time-consuming. But Guan was tired of it. He owed Supreme Sect no favors. He had long since repaid the grace of their past protection. Guan spoke up. Life is like the tide, and people chase the waves, pursuing the destination of the celestial mandate. You wish for it too, and I don't mind, but wanting the celestial mandate depends on yourselves. I am powerless to help. Upon hearing this, LV Batian involuntarily opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but found himself unable to speak. Guan raised his right hand, revealing startling black lines in his palm. What is this? LV Batian's eyes widened as he asked nervously. Guan was not just the faith of Supreme Sect, but also his backbone. If something happened to Guan, how could he remain calm? Guan said, "This is the consequence of intervening too much. If my cultivation dissipates and I become a cripple in the future, I wonder if Supreme Sect will still have a piece of Medicine Valley for me to live out my days?" LV Batian's face paled dramatically. He had not expected Guan to have such a hidden ailment. But on second thought, considering the powerful enemies Guan had faced for Supreme Sect, for all living beings, it was not unthinkable that he would be injured. Only, LV Batian panicked, more than he had ever been in his life. He hadn't panicked when ousted by the vice-sect leader, or when forced into feigned death. He hadn't panicked when misunderstood by his son, or even when his son spoke of killing him. But now, suddenly unsure of what to do, his heart was filled with shame and regret. He knew only to ask of Guan, never once inquiring about the pressure Guan faced. If he had known sooner, maybe Guan's injury would not have been so severe? Guan teased, "Sect leader, if I were to be crippled, would you still be willing to transfer power to me?" LV Batian wanted to comfort him, but thinking of the gap between their realms, he felt he lacked the standing to offer consolation. "Of course I would," he said laughing. "I am not in the integration realm now, but the Mahayana realm, which is sufficient for you to live out the rest of your life in ease, though the position of sect leader might be uncertain, considering even I have to rely on you for my standing." With the resources of the Supreme Sect, he smoothly reached the Mahayana realm, but his cultivation level was quite embarrassing for someone in the position of sect leader. Guano laughed. "That's true. A sect leader in the Mahayana realm is rather disgraceful. My cultivation speed isn't slow, and it's not like everyone can be like How. If I ever lose my cultivation, I'll change my name and surname, and from then on call me Elder Gu. Sure, when the time comes I'll accompany you." The two laughed and talked as if they had returned to over 1,000 years ago. Guan was just trying to scare LV Batian, but he didn't expect LV Batian to take it to heart. That was good too. It was time for the entire Supreme Sect to have an awakening. Relying on one person was not good for the sect. 2 hours later, as twilight descended, LV Batian left with a resolute expression on his face, as if he was going to report something to the Elder Hall. Guan then turned his head to look at the Third Medicine Valley. From the top of the mountain, the Third Medicine Valley was truly magnificent. Wherever he went in the future, he would have to take the Third Medicine Valley with him. After all, it was the fruit of his labor for 1,800 years. After sitting alone in the pavilion for a while, Guan stood up and walked down the mountain. The setting sun shone on him, and as he descended the mountain, he gradually became dim. Upon returning to the valley, Guan stopped under the attic, looking into the distance. Chen Chuan was sparring with Long Qing, drawing crowds of disciples to watch and cheer. Chen Chuan had a strand of celestial Tao destiny about him, very faint, hard to detect, but it sure existed. Guan glanced once and continued upstairs. "Master, Elderly of the Inner Sect Refining Hall is about to host a birthday feast for his 2000th year, and he has sent someone to invite you." The Blood Prison Great Saint spoke up. That Elderly was an old friend of Guan's for 1,000 years, and after living past 2,000 years, he would face his mortality in not too many years. "I understand," replied Guan. "Go and find an Xian. Tell her to prepare a gift." "Okay." Blood Prison Great Saint immediately rose, and went off in pursuit of Nzin's aura. After Guan went upstairs, he sat down at the desk, turning his head to look out the window. After Elderly's passing, Guan's true friends would be very few. He was still popular now, but more people came to him for his power. When Guan became friends with Elder Li, the Third Medicine Valley was not famous, and the apparent gap in their cultivation levels wasn't significant. It started as a chance meeting at an inn, both fond of Cyan Hero's travelogue, talking for a long time before forming a bond. A new era really is coming, Guan murmured to himself, feeling the old times and old friends fading away. He didn't dwell on it. Instead, he extended his divine sense across the universe. Choosing the place for his breakthrough was what he should care about the most at the moment. As his divine sense probed, he saw a powerful force emerging in the silent extinction domain, even flying the flag of the battle court, having already ruled over a dozen great heaven and earths. The strongest in the battle court was at the late stage of the profound Yuan free immortal realm, a minor level higher than Sword Gu Ming had been before. They were expanding towards the direction of the celestial spirit great world, and it was only a matter of time before they would wage war. Looking around, Guan felt that to make a breakthrough, he still needed to look for a place within the reincarnation vortex. The reincarnation vortex connected to many great heaven and earths located in this universe, just that they were very far apart. However, the reincarnation vortex also led to the land of reincarnation, the destination of souls, unreachable even for free immortals. Nevertheless, the heaven-encompassing free immortal could capture traces of the reincarnation. Otherwise, for the next breakthrough, go to the land of reincarnation? As this thought took hold, Guan's eyes brightened even more. Chapter 486. Behave domineeringly. Yi Tianji. Within the dim void, dense fog swirled, with nebulae faintly visible here and there. Within the source of the light hung a grand hall, with 9 suns suspended above it, arrayed in a fan shape. Beneath the 9 suns, a black throne stood upon a high platform, upon which an imposing figure sat. He was clad in armor, with a broad physique, wearing a divine crown reminiscent of a Qilin's head, from which emerged his cold and authoritative countenance. White hair fluttered at the sides of his face, as he supported his head with one hand in a languid pose, continually exhaling turbid breath like a true dragon taking a brief rest. A bolt of lightning struck from the depths of darkness, hitting the grand hall and transforming into a winged man. He was dressed in dark cyan Taoist robes, with a grim expression and long hair cascading freely, resembling a fierce ghost. In front of the seated figure, the winged man seemed so diminutive, like facing a towering mountain. My lord, it appears that the power of the immortal gods is intervening in this universe. The winged man spoke with a grave tone, clearly wary of the immortal gods. The seated figure slowly opened his eyes, his pupils gold in color, which made him look even more majestic and overwhelming. Immortal gods? Ridiculous. In this great thousand world there is but one immortal god. He would not interfere in internal strife. Besides, this great thousand world betrayed the immortal god in the past. The dissatisfaction of the immortal god with this world is not so easily dissipated. His gaze shifted to the depths of the universe, the scenery of the celestial spirit great world reflecting in his pupils. Hearing this, the winged man frowned and asked, "Do you mean someone is masquerading in the name of the immortal gods?" The seated figure replied, "Both the heavenly Tao and the immortal gods wield their power despotically. They would not engage in so many roundabout tactics. However, it is just as well, let them test the depth of the celestial spirit great world. Our task is to capture the remnants of the Long clan." The winged man pressed on. "But within the celestial spirit great world lies the celestial Tao golden core. Why not take it for ourselves?" The seated figure did not respond again, and simply closed his eyes. The grand hall fell into silence, the 9 suns still blazing fiercely, bringing endless light to the void. Suddenly, the winged man seemed to sense something, swiftly turning around to look, only to see in the deep darkness of the void a pair of vast eyes staring back at them. Those eyes were like the eyes of the universe, making the nebulae in their presence pale in comparison. The descendant of the Long clan is indeed in the celestial spirit great world, and he will vie for the celestial mandate. A voice, ancient and strong, resounded. This voice was unmistakably He Qingsong's, but it was stronger, as though a supreme deity proclaiming the laws of the world to all living beings. The seated figure opened his eyes and looked mocking. So it's you. I hadn't expected you to still not have given up the chase. The vast eyes in the void continued. Yi Tianji, we could join forces. Perhaps the people of the Long clan are hiding under the employ of the supporting Dao Sword Venerable. If so, you cannot avoid dealing with him. An entity even the silent destruction God Emperor suffered a setback from. I promote the celestial mandate, and you eradicate the enemy's remnants. Our actions do not conflict. The figure referred to as Yi Tianji remained unflustered, merely staring calmly at those eyes, his thoughts inscrutable. The void returned to silence once more. Unless you tell me exactly who the descendant of the Long clan is, I shall not readily believe you. Yi Tianji finally spoke. The vast eyes in the void narrowed slightly, hearing Yi Tianji continue. But you have another option. You could concede the celestial Dao Golden Core to me. I might then consider assisting you. The celestial Dao Golden Core. The expression in the eyes of the void suddenly turned cold, while Yi Tianji closed his eyes again. The winged man on the grand hall could not help but smile, looking mockingly at the vast eyes in the void, waiting for a decision. For a long time, the voice of the void's great eye spoke. Not now. When the celestial Dao Golden Core appears, I will not stop you but let you enter. Upon hearing this, Yi Tianji's face revealed a defiant smile. Another 30 years had passed. At the age of 1943, Guan was playing chess with the nine-fingered divine monarch, holding the green hero travelogue in one hand and a chess piece in the other, his eyes on the book. The nearly defeated nine-fingered divine monarch raised his eyes to Guan and said dissatisfied, "Do you need to treat our chess games so dismissively?" Guan replied, "Please, you're the one who insisted on playing with me." Although profound celestial intent was a Nirvana realm great cultivator, his reputation had been drowned out by the increasing number of great cultivators in the Supreme Sect. He seldom returned from his travels and would send Guan books from time to time. Guan was reading firsthand new releases, and by the time he finished, the Green Hero travelogue would only then start circulating in the market. This volume of the story was particularly brilliant. The hero encountered a woman with deep-seated enmity toward him. They chased each other at sea and ultimately encountered an attack from a great demon. Both were poisoned and temporarily lost their cultivation levels. They ended up stranded on a deserted island, entangled in love and hate. Even without other characters, watching their interactions with the island's demons was also very intriguing. Zhu Luo Sword Monarch holds 8 volumes of the Theory of Heaven, and is just missing the last one. He waits inside his Zizai Sword City, saying that if he loses he will surrender all 8 volumes. Yet even so, the final volume of the Theory of Heaven has not revealed itself. The nine-fingered divine monarch sighed, and his face was filled with admiration when he mentioned Zhu Luo Sword Monarch. His realm was worlds apart from Zhu Luo Sword Monarch, which is why he held such reverence. Furthermore, having played chess with him before, he felt a connection and especially paid attention to news about Zhu Luo Sword Monarch. Guan casually asked, "What? Are you very interested in the true immortal inheritance? You could challenge him too. What if you won?" "How could I possibly win? I'm just at the wandering immortal realm, while he exists at the 9th heaven of the immortal path. I could cultivate for tens of thousands of years and still might not reach his level," said the nine-fingered divine monarch, his eyes wide. Seeing that he did not want to continue the chess game, and was changing the subject, Guan said irritably, "Tens of thousands of years? Do you think you can live that long?" The nine-fingered divine monarch was so annoyed that he stood up, and left with a flick of his sleeve. Guan curled his lip and thought to himself that he really lacked sportsmanship in chess. He stood up and walked towards the outside of the dojo. Along the way, disciples and cultivators who saw him all paid their respects. He walked toward the mouth of the valley, where a woman was pacing at this moment. This woman was Yi Lan's disciple, Yi Qingxue. Nearly 1,000 years old, she had reached the divinity transformation realm cultivation level. 2,000 years ago, she could have roamed freely across the continent, but in today's supreme sect, a cultivation level of divinity transformation realm was not as prestigious as some exceptionally talented new disciples. Dressed in a yellow robe, Yi Qingxue saw Guan's figure from afar, and she was immediately filled with joy. Just as she was about to step forward, she hesitated again. As a child, she had been disrespectful and hostile towards Guan. She felt that her master, being so powerful, shouldn't have to curry favor with Guan. But ever since she realized that Guan was the supporting Dao sword venerable, she understood how ridiculous she had been. Because of this, she dared not see Guan anymore. Since her master's death, she had kept this relationship secret, and did not speak of it. Apart from the elder hall, no one knew of her relation to Guan. Seeing Guan walking towards her, Yi Qingxue felt nervous and apprehensive. Could it be that her uncle master had foreseen her coming, and had specifically come to meet her? She thought it highly likely, given that her uncle master was the supporting Dao sword venerable. But she also feared that she might be overthinking it. With her relationship with her uncle master not being particularly close, he certainly had many similar relationships. Surely he couldn't take special care of every junior? Yi Qingxue stood there, extremely anxious, feeling caught between a rock and a hard place. Chapter 487. Changes in the world. As Guan approached, Yi Qingxue still didn't dare to greet him, but the nearby disciples came over to pay their respects and greet him. Third Medicine Valley was now home to many disciples, all of them cultivators who required space for practicing their spells. Even chi absorption cultivation needed space, hence, around Third Medicine Valley, one could always see people, especially near the entrance that represented the main gate of Medicine Valley. The closer Guan got, the more nervous Yi Qingxue became, hearing nothing but her own breathing and heartbeat. She held power within her subsect as well, and she was considered a talent. Years of experience had rendered her calm in handling matters, so why was she so nervous at this moment? She didn't understand. She could only secretly chide and blame herself. Now that you are here, why not come in? Must your master uncle come out to fetch you personally? You're making quite the entrance, even grander than the sect leader. Guan's light laughter reached her ears, startling her into looking up and meeting his gaze. She quickly raised her hand in salute, her voice trembling as she spoke. Greetings, Master Uncle. Let's go. I happen to be free today, Guan said with a smile. Before Yilan passed away, the only thing she was worried about was Yi Qingxue, as she was the disciple Yilan had personally raised, which was evident from their shared surname. Go? Where to? Yi Qingxue asked nervously, her heart surprisingly lifted. Not expecting her master uncle to still remember her, and treating her with the same gentle attitude as before. She had thought that after her master's death, his brother would no longer show her kindness. To resolve your troubles, Guan answered and began walking out of Medicine Valley. Yi Qingxue was stunned for a moment, then quickly followed his pace. She caught up to Guan's side and asked, "But I haven't mentioned my troubles. How do you know?" Guan glanced at her and laughed. "You are also a cultivator. Do you think the immortals you look up to can't predict the future?" Yi Qingxue was shocked. Guan then took her flying toward the sect's main city. Their flight wasn't too fast, and along the way he inquired about how she had been these past years, quickly easing the tension in her heart. After dropping her guard, Yi Qingxue began to discuss the difficulties she had encountered. Her disciple was exceptionally talented, and caught the eye of a great cultivator who attempted to recruit her. Failing to persuade her, he kidnapped her. She wanted to seek Zhenqin's help, but Zhenqin had been out on a journey for hundreds of years, leaving her no way to find her. After much deliberation, she decided to turn to Guan. Guan knew she was telling the truth, and he also marveled inwardly at the fearsome nature of heavenly Dao. Hundreds of years ago, noble families within the sect wouldn't dare scheme against anyone linked to him by karma, but now, those in the upper echelons of these families believed he feared the heavenly Dao and would no longer take action. Of course, they still acted cautiously, not harming Yi Qingxue. If supporting Dao Sword Venerable really decided to act, they could pretend they were unaware of this connection. This family, surnamed Qin, held formidable power within the Supreme Sect. Even the leader of the subsect bore the name Qin. They had mastered an evil skill, collecting 99 gifted individuals destined for great fortunes and transferring all their destiny and talent to another individual, creating the strongest of the Qin family to compete for the celestial mandate. The old ancestor of the Qin family was a divine immortal of wondrous dharma, with inconspicuous cultivation level, but well known by many for their possession of celestial and earthly immortals. The bustling scenes caused by the Qin family allowing these immortals into the supreme sect had greatly boosted their reputation. The evil skill of the Qin family was naturally a secret, and they dared not practice such deeds within the supreme sect. Therefore, Yi Qingxi's disciple had been transferred to an isolated island overseas. After Yi Qingxue finished speaking, she looked at Guan with pleading eyes. To her, the Qin family was a colossal entity that could not be shaken. She had mobilized all her connections, even reporting to the law enforcement hall, but all efforts vanished without a trace. She had also received warnings, but for some reason, the Qin family hadn't taken action against her. Guan continued forward, his gaze fixed on the path ahead, the breeze fluttering his robe. He spoke. Qingxue, do you feel that the changes within the supreme sect are significant? Are the changes in this world significant? Yi Qingxue was perplexed and didn't understand why Guan suddenly asked such a question. After a moment of consideration, she said, "The changes are naturally significant. Aren't all things in the world changing? Every place has its dark corners, and my disciples' experiences are just an exception, and won't affect my sense of belonging to the supreme sect." Guan glanced at her, a smile spreading across his face. Yi Qingxue thought Guan was satisfied with her answer, and a smile also appeared on her face. With a senior brother stepping forward, there would surely be hope for her disciple. The pressure that had enveloped her for several days dissipated, and she began to think about how to repay her senior brother. Half an hour later, Guan and his companion finally arrived at the Elder Hall in the sect's main city. This place was the power center of the Supreme Sect, and its influence was even greater than that of the sect master's mansion. In front of the grand doors of the Elder Hall stood two 10-meter-tall Qilin stone statues, lifelike and imposing, giving an overwhelming sense of oppression. Looking at the three characters on the plaque, Yi Qingxue became nervous again. She had been here hundreds of years ago, accompanying Yi Lan on some errand, and the important figures in the hall had left a deep impression on her with their commanding aura. The disciple guarding the door, seeing Guan walking straight towards it, subconsciously meant to ask questions. He had just taken a step when a voice reached his ears, causing his face to change dramatically, and with a thud he knelt down. It wasn't just him, the other gate-guarding disciples also knelt down, looking toward Guan excitedly. Yi Qingxue, seeing them suddenly kneel, naturally guessed that they had recognized the identity of her senior brother. Guan walked straight into the mansion, and along the way, every disciple and cultivator who saw him also knelt down in succession. Some recognized him, but many were just alarmed or prompted. Even Yi Qingxue noticed something amiss, seeming to sense that someone was secretly watching Guan along the way. She thought of one of the sect's branches, the most mysterious one. Dark Hall. "Guan, what brings you here?" A voice sounded, revealing ancient sect with a smiling face coming up to greet him. He was one of the few elders who had a very good relationship with Guan. They had known each other for 1,900 years, back when Guan's identity as the supporting Dao Sword Venerable had not yet been revealed. Guan spoke with a smile. "Arrange it, I need to see all the elders." Ancient sect's heart skipped a beat. Guan had never made such a request before, and his first thought was that something serious had happened, and it was something major. He didn't dare to ask further, and immediately went to make arrangements. Yi Qingxue, watching Guan's commanding presence, looked at his back in admiration, not even realizing that her gaze was now the very one she had most despised in the past. Her master had looked at Guan in the same way. One by one, elders appeared out of thin air, and upon showing themselves, they immediately saluted Guan. Seeing that Guan did not pay attention to them, they too became anxious. Guan was known for his gentle demeanor and meticulous courtesy, and was well respected, but if he forewent these courtesies, the elders could feel the terrifying pressure from the supporting Dao Sword Venerable. Many elders even thought about fleeing the place, yet they were afraid of offending Guan. They wondered in their hearts, what exactly had happened? Was it an invasion by external enemies, or did some reckless fool provoke the supporting Dao Sword Venerable? Their eyes inevitably fell on Yi Qingxue. With the supporting Dao sword venerable bringing this woman, there had to be a reason. Chapter 488. Incomprehensible Methods. Vice sect leader Ji Hantian also appeared, and he personally led Guan and Yi Qingxue to the conference hall. In the end, Guan sat in the seat of honor, with Yi Qingxue standing by his side, while the other elders stood as well. Seeing Guan with his eyes closed, they couldn't help but communicate secretly through sound transmission technique. Because everyone was using the sound transmission technique, the conference hall fell silent. And Yi Qingxue was extremely nervous, her body taut with tension. At this moment, she also worried that the situation might blow up too big. Could it be that because of her and her disciple, the supreme sect would crumble and disperse? She couldn't bear such an outcome. The Qin family was merely interested in her disciple's talent, and didn't intend to harm her disciple. If she didn't approach Guan, her disciple would just lose his freedom. But if the supreme sect lost Guan, it would affect everyone in the supreme sect. Yi Qingxue began to blame herself, thinking she should have explained the situation clearly before coming. She looked at Guan, wanting to speak but hesitated. Little did she know, what she understood was not the truth. The Qin family not only wanted her disciple, they wanted his life. Time continued to pass. More and more elders arrived, and some changed their expressions when they saw Yi Qingxue, presumably guessing the reason. LV Baitian also arrived. He had the best relationship with Guan, and thus mustered the courage to ask why Guan had come. It's nothing much, just want to say a personal farewell to everyone, Guan said with closed eyes, and as soon as these words came out, everyone panicked and began to discourage him. Sword Venerable, is there something we have failed to do? Yes, Sword Venerable, the Supreme Sect can do without anyone but you. Who has offended you? Just say the word, and the Supreme Sect will definitely give you an explanation. Sword Venerable, don't scare us. Sword Venerable, where are you planning to go? The elders, no matter from which powerful family they came, even those from the Qin family, were thrown into disarray. To this day, most of the Elder Hall's members were newcomers. They had joined the Supreme Sect because of supporting Dao Sword Venerable. Without supporting Dao Sword Venerable, what was the Supreme Sect? Guan opened his eyes and looked at the faces in the hall. Most were unfamiliar, just like the current state of the Supreme Sect, which made him feel increasingly alienated. It wasn't just that old acquaintances were passing away. The sect's spirit was changing and seemed no different from other sects. The law of the jungle, where the strong are revered. Chivalry was not often mentioned by most people. Pursuing the celestial mandate had become everyone's goal. This atmosphere had even spread to the Third Medicine Valley. Although this was the machination of those pursuing the heavenly Tao, the fact that it was so easily shaken still made Guan somewhat weary. With his current divine skills, he could go anywhere and take his Medicine Valley with him. Guan was indeed planning to change locations, go into seclusion to cross the tribulation, and reach for a higher realm. The strife in this world was still long, with never-ending tribulations and continual unexpected twists. Being in the spotlight would only bring incessant troubles to those around him. LV Baitian fell silent. He was not as panicked as the others, thinking Guan wanted to recover from injuries. If Guan was truly weary, he would not stop him. In his eyes, Guan had no obligation to always guard the Supreme Sect. He had heard about what He Qingsong had said previously in the Third Medicine Valley, and he was aware of the heavenly Tao resisting Guan. The Supreme Sect seemed stable, but who really knew the pressure Guan faced? Guan looked over everyone, making them lower their gaze as the discussions abruptly ceased. Suddenly, Guan raised his right hand, and something appeared in his palm out of nowhere, covered with a faint silver light, and water surrounding it. Upon close inspection, it wasn't just a rock. It turned out to be an island, but in Guan's palm, it looked like a rock. What's this? LV Baitian asked with a frown. The others also focused on the island in Guan's hand, their divine sense probing it, and soon some of them showed a change in expression. The elders from the Qin family looked even more panic-stricken, trembling all over with extreme fear. Yi Qingxue also looked at the small island in surprise. She used her divine sense to probe it, and took in the entire island's scenery. She saw her disciple. Changer. Yi Qingce's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief as she called out. She saw her disciple bound to a stone pillar, barely clinging to life, surrounded by others also tied to various stone pillars, their bodies plastered with all sorts of talisman paper. As soon as she spoke, the Qin family elders were so scared they immediately knelt down, each sweating profusely. Guan had already taken control of the island. Although they couldn't understand his methods, they knew Guan was targeting them. LV Batian turned his head to look and asked with a frown, "What's going on?" The other elders also frowned, just as clueless about what the Qin family was really up to. But judging from the formation inside the island, it seemed to be a ritual sacrifice of the people on the pillars. Could all these people be disciples of the supreme sect? They weren't sure, but one thing was certain. Someone was related to Yi Qingxue, and Yi Qingxue had come following the supporting Dao sword venerable. Big trouble was brewing. The many elders glanced at the Qin family elders with a chilling gaze, wishing they could execute them on the spot. The Qin family was strong, but it all depended on who they were compared to. If they opposed the supporting Dao sword venerable, the entire supreme sect would join forces to eradicate the Qin family. With a thought from Guan, figures flew out from the island one after the other, all of them imprisoned prodigies, who landed on the ground in a disheveled state. Yi Qingxue immediately rushed to one of them, and Guan followed, casting lifespan detection. Yi Chong, 5th layer nascent soul realm 129/700/9999, huh? A lifespan limit of 9,999 years. Such talented individuals were a rarity these days. Guan admired silently. Then with a squeeze of his right hand, prompts to seize lifespans appeared continuously. This island had existed for a long time, engaged in utterly vile deeds. Before Yi Chong and the others were captured, the Qin family had practiced their evil skill here. The hands of everyone on the island stained with blood. Killing them, Guan felt no burden whatsoever. Upon seeing Guan clench his fist, all the elders' hearts pounded furiously. They couldn't afford to look at the tormented talents. Instead, they all fixed their eyes on Guan, not even daring to breathe heavily. The Qin family elders were ashen-faced, terrified. Under their watchful eyes, Guan opened his right hand, and sand fell from his palm. From beginning to end, Guan's face was expressionless, causing everyone's hearts to grow cold, sending chills down their spines. No one dared to speak, including LV Batian. They didn't know what to say, only feeling fear in their hearts. They finally understood the terror of being an enemy to Guan. They even believed that if Guan exhales, they might die. You can investigate the truth of the matter yourselves, and be wise from now on. Guan stood up and walked towards the gate. Yi Qingxue, supporting Yi Chong, hurriedly followed him. Everyone watched Guan leave, and the confused rescued prodigies looked at Guan, not understanding what had happened. They weren't even aware that they had been saved. Ji Hantian approached a Qin family elder with a dark expression, gritting his teeth and said, "Speak, what exactly has your Qin family done?" The Qin family elder trembled under the murderous gazes directed at him, and immediately confessed the evil practice of the Qin family. After hearing the confession, LV Batian couldn't help but sigh. Such incidents had occurred more than once. The supporting Dao sword venerable's emergence in the world was to help the supreme sect prevent such evil deeds. It had been over 1,000 years, now nearing 2,000, and still, there were those who committed such foolish acts. LV Batian suddenly felt powerless. The supreme sect had indeed grown rapidly, but what did it really mean? What was he aiming for by remaining in the position of sect leader? Elsewhere, Guan stepped out of the elder hall. He paused, turned to look at Yi Qingxue and said, "Take him back to recover. No one will trouble you for what's to come." With that, he walked off towards the streets, ready to stroll around the sect's main city. Yi Qingxue hurriedly bowed towards Guan's retreating figure. Yi Chong, his face covered in blood, struggled to open his eyes and said weakly, "Master, who is he?" Yi Qingxue fought back her excitement and whispered, "He is your ancestor's senior brother, your teacher's granduncle." Yi Cheng's eyes widened. He lifted his head, trying to catch a glimpse of Guan's fading figure, but could no longer see him. Guan disappeared into the crowd. Observing the bustling scenes along the way, he began to ponder the future of the supreme sect. This street would experience bustle and solitude, ebb and flow with the world's changes. As of the decision he made today, this street would turn into wilderness many years later. Chapter 489. Celestial Tao Reincarnation. 10 billion years lifespan. When Guan returned to the third Medicine Valley, it was dusk, and he called an Xian to return with him to his loft. "Master, is there something you needed?" An Xian asked, curious. Guan seldom summoned her without a significant reason. Guan asked with a smile, "If I were to prepare to leave, what would you think?" Upon hearing this, Anzin's expression instantly turned serious. She knew her master was not joking. Over the years, she too had felt something was amiss. It was widely proclaimed in the world that all must believe in the heavenly Tao and pursue the celestial mandate. At first, she didn't feel much, but when she heard the disciples declaring that the fate of the world was predetermined by heaven, she sensed trouble. She still remembered what He Qingsong had said, that the heavenly Tao did not wish for her master to intervene. Although she wasn't sure if He Qingsong could represent the heavenly Tao, she couldn't help but think more about it. If master wishes to leave, then we will leave. Where to and when? An Xian asked, seemingly without any hesitation, and even somewhat eagerly. Guan shook his head with a wry smile and asked, "Don't you have people or things you would hate to leave behind?" An Xian replied, "Although I am the major disciple of Medicine Valley and have close relationships with many disciples, I know where everything I have comes from. I only care about master and my senior fellow disciple." She was gentle by nature, considerate in her interactions, but that didn't mean her heart was indecisive. Guan could hear the sincerity in her voice. His lips curled up as he said, "Since that is the case, I entrust you with a task. Select a suitable disciple from the third Medicine Valley to take over as the Valley Master in the future. Of course, do not reveal my intentions for now." An Xian immediately agreed. Then she began to inquire where Guan planned to go, but Guan did not answer her, for he was also hesitating. The universe was vast, with many worlds. It was worth considering whether to head to outer heaven, or stay in the celestial spirit great world. Under the mystical star-studded sky, the celestial Tao golden core emitted endless light, illuminating the entire universe. Boom! A gust of wind rushed toward the young immortal emperor, causing his golden robe to billow intensely. He squinted, looking towards Anhao standing before him. 10 feet away, Anhao stood with his back to him, his body enveloped in golden flames, his long hair fluttering, radiating a soaring aura. This aura is almost catching up to that of celestial and earthly immortals. How has his strength increased so quickly? Something's not right. The young immortal emperor's eyes flickered with suspicion. Anhao slowly turned around, glancing sidelong at the young immortal emperor, his expression indifferent and totally unlike his usual self, causing the young immortal emperor to frown. "What's wrong?" the young immortal emperor asked. Anhao said, "A powerful being is targeting the celestial Tao golden core. They are already waiting for its emergence." "Did the celestial Tao golden core tell you that?" the young immortal emperor asked. Anhao didn't reply but instead fixed his gaze on the young immortal emperor and said, "The calamities of the immortal dynasty are approaching. The fierce battle you hope for is perhaps wishful thinking." Calamities. The young immortal emperor's brows furrowed tighter, his doubts about Anhao's state growing. Anhao said solemnly, "Your Majesty, if the immortal dynasty faces the danger of annihilation, would you sacrifice yourself to save it?" Whoosh! The young immortal emperor heard a noise behind him, and as he turned, he saw a ring of light emerging on the surface of the celestial Tao golden core, quickly expanding to display the thriving scenes of the immortal dynasty. As he watched, a hand descended from the sky, uprooting the continent where the immortal dynasty was located, and moving it to outer heaven. Next, this hand crushed the entire immortal dynasty into dust, leaving nothing behind. The young immortal emperor's face turned grim as the scene within the ring of light vanished, leaving only a vague figure standing inside, seemingly waiting for him. The celestial spirit's archenemy has targeted this realm. Destroying the immortal dynasty is just the beginning. Next is the Holy Court. What will you do? This being surpasses even the free immortal. And Hao said, his tone indifferent, as if possessed by some supreme being. The young immortal emperor looked at him again and asked, "Who are you really?" And Hao's expression didn't change as he answered, "I am still in Hao, just that I have been tempered through the celestial Tao reincarnation over the years, making me different from before." Heavenly Tao reincarnation? I kept experiencing the destruction of the celestial spirit great world, where each time, all beings were annihilated, the world shattered, and the heavenly Tao golden core was taken by a mysterious and powerful being. I kept changing the situation in the reincarnation, but the outcome was always the same. As long as the world shattered and the light of the heavenly Tao that enveloped the world dispersed, that mysterious being would make a move. And Hao said in a tone laced with inexplicable meaning, filled with sadness and resolution. Young immortal emperor was not startled but looked deeply into his eyes and asked, "If that's the case, what good does my sacrifice do?" And Hao looked toward the heavenly Tao golden core and said, "The heavenly Tao golden core will grant you strength that surpasses that of the Zizai immortals, but from then on, you will become a puppet to the heavenly Tao golden core. Your emotions will be erased. You will still be you, but there are many things you will no longer be able to do, and that is only if the transformation is successful." Young immortal emperor, with a smile curling the corners of his mouth, responded, "That sounds a lot like the celestial sect wandering the human world." He turned to look at the heavenly Tao golden core, and the figure within the halo gradually became clearer. It was another him, as though he were looking into a mirror. Flames sparkled in young immortal emperor's eyes, growing more intense. Years flew by, another 200 years had passed. Third Medicine Valley. Ancient Sek stood in front of Gu An's loft, his face filled with complex emotions. An Exian, standing beside him, said, "Elder Gu, go back. If Master returns, I will inform you." Gu Yu, alongside Ancient Sect, couldn't resist asking, "It's been over 150 years since he left, why hasn't he returned? Could he truly be gone? The Qin family has already been punished and even expelled. Can't he let go of his grudges?" An Exian shook her head and replied, "It's unrelated to that. Master left because of something else. You're overthinking it." Ancient Sect stopped Guyu from saying more. "Let's go back. Perhaps we are overthinking it." Elder Gu sighed, then turned and left. Guyu could only follow in his footsteps. Under a nearby tree, where the blood prison great saint was meditating, he opened his eyes and watched them leave, his face showing a mocking smile. An Exian turned and left without lingering under the loft. At the same time, inside the loft, Guan had not left. He was lying on a chair reading a book. He had merely concealed his own aura and fate, thus misleading others into thinking he wasn't there. Even if someone were to enter now, they wouldn't see him. After finishing the last page, Guan pulled up his attribute panel. Name, Guan lifespan, 2143/9999605001 Physique, Primordial Infinite Body, Cultivation Level, Luotian Zizai Immortal Realm Perfection, 99 billion years of life. So close to 100 billion. Guan was eagerly anticipating his new life abilities, hoping they wouldn't disappoint. The reason he feigned departure early was to prepare for his breakthrough. The next breakthrough would surely shake heaven and earth. And he also wasn't sure if his journey to the land of reincarnation would alarm the celestial spirit great world. So he chose to hide himself in advance. Now, other than the celestial spirit god, no one should be aware that he was still there. He shifted and began to gaze into the distance. He sensed a formidable power approaching the celestial spirit great world. Taoist Zhang Zizai Immortal. This being wasn't seeking to destroy the celestial spirit great world, but was targeting a corner of it. That direction was the immortal dynasty. Guan started to look forward to the so-called heavenly Tao golden core, and whether it could truly help young immortal emperor defeat an enemy greater than a Zizai immortal. Because of Hao, Guan often kept an eye on the heavenly Tao golden core. Located in a special space, Guan was able to perceive it partly because he had secretly left a Tao destruction destiny seal on Hao. He could feel the changes in and how his celestial Dao destiny far more intense than that of puppets like He Ching Song. Chapter 490. The great Tao is boundless deep within the universe. Amidst the darkness, a purple rainbow sped along at an inconceivable speed, its target being the celestial spirit great world. Many great cultivators and demons roamed the void, and when they saw the purple rainbow, they were all frightened, hurriedly dodging out of the way, fearful of being struck. What is that? Such a terrifying aura. Could it be the existence of the 8th or 9th level of the immortal Tao? The universe is indeed becoming more dangerous. It's not only the celestial spirit great world, but other great worlds are also continuously facing calamities, and there are even some that have been swallowed by mysterious forces. I heard that too. It said that this power is called the battle court. We better find our disciples and avoid the tribulation, survive to the next era, and then we can turn our fortunes around. As cultivators and demons discussed, the purple rainbow drew closer and closer to the celestial spirit great world. Inside the celestial spirit great world, countless beings saw a purple meteor appear from the horizon, descending from the heavens towards the distance. Many mortal spirits even thought it was a lucky star descending, and they began to pray and make wishes. Before long, a thunderous roar reverberated through the world. On a hillside, Longqing and Chen Chuan, who were practicing their skills, stopped and turned their heads simultaneously, seeing a purple glow on the horizon, desolate yet magnificent. Feeling the strong aura from afar, Chen Chuan frowned and asked, "Senior brother, what's happening?" Longqing felt a palpitation that he hadn't felt in many years, inexplicably feeling as if a great disaster was about to strike. "I'm not sure, it could be another battle between great powers. Well, get used to it. There are always some areas in the world that are restless, but it won't affect us," Longqing said, trying to reassure him. Chen Chuan hesitantly asked, "But our master has been gone for many years. Could it be?" Longqing glared at him, saying irritably, "Sister and the blood prison great saint are still here. How could master leave? He will come back." Chen Chuan fell silent. His understanding of Guan was not deep. Facing Guan, he was always very constrained, so he was also worried that Guan might leave. Guan was the sky for the Third Medicine Valley, and even the Supreme Sect. Without him, the Taitsong continent would surely be caught up in chaos. Chen Chuan wasn't afraid of being involved in the conflict, but he was afraid of losing track of his master. He still wanted to practice the sword Dao under his master. Even though he was known as a genius, faced with his master's sword Dao, he felt an endless urge to learn. He needed time to become stronger. He was not yet ready to stand against the heroes of the world. The two brothers gazed into the distance, each harboring their own thoughts, no longer speaking. Not just them, in various places within the Third Medicine Valley, disciples were all looking in the same direction, worrying about the future of the Taitsong continent. Guan had not left for over a century. His prolonged absence had inevitably led to rumors within the Supreme Sect, many people worrying that the supporting Dao Sword Venerable had abandoned the Supreme Sect. The news even spread overseas, causing many spies from different sects to infiltrate the Taitsong continent and the Supreme Sect. The Supreme Sect seemed still stable, yet it felt as if it was a building about to collapse. Inside the tower, Guan watched the battle, observing the immortal dynasty resisting that Taoist Zongzizai immortal from outer heaven. In just an instant, the immortal dynasty's destiny was dispersed by that person, who crashed into the immortal dynasty's land, shattering the ground and engulfing the mountains and lands with fierce fire, turning the continent of the immortal dynasty into a hell in a blink. Guan could sense that this person was holding back, seemingly not wishing to destroy the celestial spirit great world itself, just wanting to crush the immortal dynasty. The immortal dynasty responded swiftly, quickly forming a great formation, the ancient immortal emperor taking the lead to combat the Taoist Zongzizai immortal, with other divine thought true immortals joining the battle. Taoist Zongzizai immortal was quite arrogant, continually provoking the immortal realm's immortals' Dao hearts, looking to grant them the greatest opportunity. Yet, Guan knew he was waiting for the celestial Dao Golden Core. The celestial Dao Golden Core was hidden in a mysterious space, isolated by celestial Dao destiny, making it impossible for Taoist Zhongzhizai Immortal to locate it directly. Guan also saw that Yang Immortal Emperor had surpassed the Free Immortal. He was inside the celestial Tao Golden Core, and surprisingly, he did not need to cross the tribulation. His chi blood was merging with the celestial Tao Golden Core in a bizarre manner. What a spectacle this will be. Guan's lips curved upward. With a thought, an avatar appeared at the table, and then vanished from the spot. The impending attack of Taoist Zhongzhizai Immortal would undoubtedly bring a new round of calamities to the celestial spirit great world. Guan saw through his origin. This individual was connected to Battle Court, which meant Battle Court would eventually make a large-scale descent into the celestial spirit great world. He needed to choose his breakthrough site in advance in order to face Battle Court with greater confidence. Currently, the Battle Court's strongest cultivation level in the universe was the profound Yuan Free Immortal Realm. Although it was still beyond the reach of heaven-encompassing Free Immortal Guan, he wanted to conceal his stronger cultivation level to avoid unexpected incidents. In a single step, Guan's avatar entered the reincarnation vortex above, zooming into the reincarnation area at a rapid pace. The rules of reincarnation were special, invisible and colorless, but when a living being approached, they would be swept away and brought into the land of reincarnation. Guan had previously explored the land of reincarnation. It was so vast that it was even larger than the universe, so he had not directly determined the breakthrough site. Indeed, the land of reincarnation was extremely mysterious and dark as night. Even as his avatar traversed this land, it felt uneasy, as if something terrifying might emerge from the darkness at any moment and rip him apart. The mystery and vastness of the land of reincarnation made Guan realize that the great Tao was unimaginably vast, not confined by the universe, and there were many other mysterious places with different rules from the universe. Guan split his focus, keeping an eye on the great battle in the Immortal Dynasty while monitoring his avatar. About half an hour later, an overwhelming aura burst forth, covering everything in heaven and earth so that all living beings could feel it. Whether human, demon, or sea creatures, all looked toward the direction of the Immortal Dynasty. A gigantic sun appeared in the sky in that direction, spectacular in its brilliance. Its scorching heat reached every corner of the world. This heat did not cause discomfort but instead gave a warm feeling, and even the most anxious hearts inexplicably relaxed. In Guan's eyes, the figure of Yang Immortal Emperor was reflected. The suddenly appearing massive sun was transformed by him. This sun, emitting dense celestial Tao destiny, quickly healed the injuries of the immortal spirits of Immortal Dynasty, and also helped recover their spiritual power. How utterly domineering! Guan began to look forward to Yang Immortal Emperor's performance. Celestial Tao Golden Core, such a magnificent creation. How dare you waste it? A chilling voice rang out, bursting with killing intent, making all living beings feel fearful. As the voice fell, heaven and earth shook violently, and two Taoist Zhongzhizai immortals began a great battle. This meant that all life in heaven and earth would be affected, no matter the distance. Even though both Taoist Zhongzhizai immortals did not wish to damage the celestial spirit great world, the power that surpassed the free immortals was more than enough to cause a destructive impact on all things. Sects around the world immediately formed formations, protecting continents, islands, and seas. Sects across the Taitsong continent also sensed trouble, and hurriedly formed their own formations. Meanwhile, on top of a high mountain, Zhuxi stood at the edge of a cliff, facing the wind. Her hair was blown about, her face expressing solemnity, her eyes flickering. Feeling this overwhelming pressure, images she had never seen before began to emerge in her mind. She saw a huge golden core burning with blazing flames. Inside the golden core stood a person, seemingly speaking to her. She strained to hear clearly, but could not make out the words. What exactly is it? Zhuxi frowned, muttering to herself. After leaving the Taitsong continent, she had traveled extensively, encountering many opportunities. As her cultivation level grew stronger, her memories of her previous life began to resurface, and she gradually learned of her past live's identity, though she was still not fully adjusted to it. Chapter 491 Profound Star Immortal Monarch Taoist Zongzizai Immortal's great war left all living beings within great heaven and earth enveloped in panic. Even though the two Zongzizai immortals headed to outer heaven to battle, the shockwaves from their initial clash continued to wreak havoc upon the world. Great waves surged across the vast ocean, while the boundless plains were swept by raging winds, and atop the high mountains and snow-capped ridges, blizzards whirled. The common folk were fleeing, the celestial vault was roaring, and thunder echoed in waves. Inside the house, Guan predicted that the Taitsong continent would also be affected. However, it would not be a catastrophic strike, so he did not plan to intervene, deeming it a good opportunity for the inhabitants of the continent to be vigilant, to let them understand that the so-called heavenly Tao would not protect them, and if they wished to survive these turbulent years, they would have to rely on themselves. Guan closed his eyes, no longer observing the scenes of turmoil throughout the lands. As for the battle between Yang Immortal Emperor and that Zongzizai Immortal, Guan had already foreseen the outcome. The battle court's desire to obtain the celestial Tao Golden Core was not so simple to achieve. Elsewhere, within the imperial palace of the Taitsong dynasty, Li Xiandao, dressed in his dragon robe, sat upon the dragon throne, his gaze fixed on the sky outside the palace, filled with flames. His sword-like eyebrows were deeply furrowed, and his expression looked troubled. He had already reached the nirvana realm in his cultivation level, though his publicly known cultivation level was at the void-crossing realm. No one was aware of his true depth. Your Majesty, even existences from outer heaven seek to vie for the celestial mandate. Do you truly remain unmoved? Asked a Taoist clad in a gray robe, standing in the hall, holding a horsetail whisk, and wearing a slight smile, seemingly confident he had seen through Li Zuando's heart. Li Zuando's gaze fell upon him and said, "Can you truly bestow upon me the celestial mandate?" The gray-robed Taoist shook his head. "In this world, the only key that can grant your Majesty the celestial mandate is the theory of heaven. However, the Ju Luo Sword Monarch is far too powerful. No one can wrest the celestial mandate from his hands. Nevertheless, I can guide your Majesty onto the heavenly Tao, allowing the Taitsong imperial dynasty to become an existence blessed by the heavenly Tao." Li Xiandao narrowed his eyes and asked, "Oh, how will you assist me, and what must I sacrifice in return?" The gray-robed Taoist smiled and said, "I can help your Majesty establish destiny, harmonize the fate of the imperial dynasty, and all you need to do is make the people believe in the heavenly Tao." "Believe in the heavenly Tao? How so?" "Your Majesty only needs to have the people erect monuments and statues, and pay homage to the Profound Star Immortal Monarch." "Profound Star Immortal Monarch?" Li Xiandao raised an eyebrow, his expression turning playful as he asked with interest, "Is this immortal monarch one of the celestial Tao immortal gods?" The gray-robed Taoist smiled and said, "Exactly, by believing in him, they will be under his divine protection, and may even receive his power." Li Xiandao sneered. "Is that so? To convince me of his existence and to wager the fate of an entire nation? Don't you think you should offer something more compelling?" The gray-robed Taoist did not panic. He stared at Li Xiandao and asked, "Your Majesty, do you wish for an immortal path ultimate treasure?" Upon hearing this, Li Zuando's expression shifted slightly. An immortal path ultimate treasure was naturally very appealing to him. His son Liya had relied on a pseudo-immortal Tao ultimate treasure to massively conquer enemies, and he too had envied it. The gray-robed Taoist raised his right hand, and a treasure sword intertwined with a golden dragon flew out from his palm, rapidly enlarging. "This is the Profound Star Emperor Sword, even mightier than an immortal path ultimate treasure. With this sword, your Majesty would possess the power to prevail across the world. However, you must venerate the Profound Star Immortal Monarch, for the Emperor Sword will sense your heart." After saying this, the gray-robed Taoist lifted his hand, sending the Profound Star Emperor Sword flying towards Li Xiandao. Snap! Li Xiandao grasped the Profound Star Emperor Sword, and in that instant, his complexion changed as he felt an incomparable power coursing through him. This power made him feel capable of accomplishing many things. He looked at the Taoist in the gray robe and asked, "There are so many imperial dynasties in the world, why choose me?" The gray-robed Taoist laughed and said, It's very simple, because of the supporting Tao sword venerable. He doesn't belong to the heavenly Tao, nor to the celestial spirit great world. He leads those around him away from the heavenly Tao, so I want to bring the Taitsong dynasty back to the heavenly Tao. Your Majesty needn't worry, the heavenly Tao won't make you confront the supporting Tao sword venerable, nor does it want to oppose him, as long as the supporting Tao sword venerable doesn't interfere with the affairs of the heavenly Tao. Hearing him mention the supporting Tao sword venerable, Li Xiandao couldn't help but have Guan's image appear before his eyes, and his gaze grew complicated. Knowing that Guan was the supporting Tao sword venerable, his emotions remained unsettled for a long time. He originally thought he was the best at concealing his identity, but Guan had opened his eyes to a whole new level. He had heard that Guan had left the Third Medicine Valley more than 100 years ago, and he couldn't help but wonder, could it be related to the heavenly Tao? Even the powerful supporting Tao sword venerable didn't want to oppose the heavenly Tao? Li Xiandao fell into deep thought. He didn't grow more longing for the heavenly Tao, but instead was filled with wariness towards it. Guan had managed to hide his identity for so many years, which showed that they were cut from the same cloth, and with Guan's higher cultivation level, he would see more things. Guan's distance from the heavenly Tao must surely have its reasons. The profound Star Emperor sword in his hand might just be too hot to handle. The gray-robed Taoist stood in the hall, quietly observing him, waiting for him to make a decision. Your Majesty, don't let me down. The Taoist thought emotionlessly, confident that Li Xiandao would not refuse him. If he were to refuse, then he would have to act on behalf of Profound Star Immortal Monarch. A year passed, and spring yielded to summer. Guan stood at the window, peering out over the continents of the world. Last year's cosmic calamity ended with the young immortal emperor's victory, thereby earning him immense fame as the second mighty individual to successfully ward off a powerful enemy from outer heaven, his name resonating throughout the world. That calamity had brought a wave of destruction to the Taitsong continent, but in the end, Li Xiandao managed to quell it with a single sword stroke, saving all living beings on the continent. After that, the Taitsong continent fell into an odd, tranquil state, and no great changes came upon the world. The young immortal emperor, having reached the level of Taoist Zongzai immortal, didn't directly march on the holy court. Instead, he chose to go into seclusion again. Without my intervention, this continent can still remain peaceful. This shows that I can indeed let go. Guan said with a smile, his voice light. Although Li Xiandao was somewhat compelled, the fact was that he truly protected the continent. Guan believed that Li Xiandao would have the last laugh. Let the so-called Profound Star Immortal Monarch see that the power of mortals should not be underestimated, especially the ambition of mortals. Seeing that the weather was fine, Guan turned around to his desk and reached for the spirit flower on it. He deliberately risked his lifespan, ready to embrace the new abilities of 100 billion years. You successfully acquired 68 years of lifespan from the Longevity Spirit Flower, Tier 6. Your lifespan has broken through 100 billion years for the first time, unlocking the Lifespan Dojo feature. Lifespan Dojo. You can consume lifespan to establish a dojo, which has some effects of the lifespan barrier to prevent deductions and prying, but the dojo cannot gather nature's spiritual energy from outside its bounds, and it has defensive power comparable to your current realm. The Lifespan Dojo has no area limits, but the range will affect lifespan consumption. A special reminder that the dojo cannot move. Every 10,000 years, you may choose to establish a new dojo, Lifespan Dojo? Guan's eyes lit up. This was good. The lifespan barrier had been a huge help, but he couldn't always keep it up due to the enormous lifespan consumption. Luckily, now there was the Lifespan Dojo. Chapter 492. Breakthrough to the perfection of the innate golden immortal realm. Guan did not immediately establish the Lifespan Dojo, but prepared to make a breakthrough first. This time, he did not plan to enhance his physique or cultivation technique, as he felt that his improvement in all areas was already significant. In these turbulent times, he could completely focus on pursuing an increase in cultivation level. Once the new era arrived and everything returned to peace, He would use the long years to improve in all aspects. Moreover, over the years he had contemplated the Tao rules, continuously making progress, which might compensate for some gaps in lifespan evolution. Since his lifespan had reached 10 billion years, it was time to set off. Guan disappeared into thin air from inside the house, stepping directly into the reincarnation vortex, and heading to the land of reincarnation. Because his avatar had explored many times, Guan walked decisively without glancing left or right. After passing through a dark area, he traversed a distance far beyond what a mortal spirit could imagine. Even a free immortal would need time, and might not be able to cross the dense reincarnation rules. Looking around, it was still darkness, without a glimmer of daylight, but the fog symbolizing the yin and yang reincarnation appeared in front, indicating that Guan had arrived at the land of reincarnation. The land of reincarnation had no land. Looking down was an abyss, and looking up, there was no ceiling. There were no directions here, no vitality. Anyone here would feel only endless solitude. Even though Guan's avatar had been here many times, he had never seen any other living beings. Fortunately, there was a special type of spiritual energy that could help him break through. With spiritual energy, powerful beings would surely be nurtured. It's just that Guan had not yet encountered any. After a long time, Guan landed on a gray lotus flower, which was 100 zhang tall. Looking around, these gray lotus flowers of varying sizes occupied the dark space, emanating a faint glow. These lotus flowers were not living things. Rather, they were condensed from the reincarnation rules, and their coverage was extremely wide, even comparable to the silent extinction domain beyond the celestial spirit great world. Because the lotus sea was vast and boundless and had an even denser reincarnation spiritual chi, Guan chose this place for his breakthrough. The moment he landed, he activated the lifespan barrier. Although he didn't feel any mighty presence, he remained vigilant, acting as if there was a powerful being lurking in the shadows. He couldn't expose himself. Guan sat cross-legged, pulling up his attribute panel, and looking at his entire 10 billion years of lifespan. His mood became pleasant. The last time the breakthrough took 20 million years per crossing the tribulation. This time, even if it reached 50 million years per crossing the tribulation, he could break through 200 times. He hoped it wouldn't be that exaggerated. Guan adjusted his mentality and immediately invested 10 billion years of lifespan into his cultivation level. He was even more generous than before. You have practiced chi absorption cultivation for 50 million years. You forcefully strike at the golden immortal Tao fruit realm with the great achievement of the great Tao great freedom as you wish Bible, and begin crossing the tribulation. You did not endure the reincarnation top Tao ultimate tribulation. Crossing the tribulation failed. You have practiced chi absorption cultivation for 100 million years. You forcefully strike at the golden immortal Tao fruit realm with the great Tao great freedom as you wish Bible, and begin crossing the tribulation. You did not endure the reincarnation top Tao ultimate tribulation. Crossing the tribulation failed. It really is 50 million years per crossing the tribulation. Although Guan had mentally prepared himself, seeing such a great consumption made his heart sink. One prompt after another fell. The 10 billion years of lifespan rapidly depleted. All failed. Guan continued to invest lifespan. Since he had not achieved success in his breakthrough, the lifespan numbers consumed by the lifespan barrier grew very slowly. Outside the barrier, the void remained silent. The gray lotus flowers were so mysterious and eerie, like countless souls floating there. After a while, Guan saw that he had only 30 billion years of lifespan left, and could not help but take a deep breath. Something wasn't quite right. Could it be that he was destined to fail this time? Guan didn't believe in bad luck. He planned to leave himself 5 billion years of lifespan. If he still couldn't break through by then, he would have to give up. You have practiced chi absorption cultivation for 50 million years. You forcefully strike at the golden immortal Tao fruit realm with the great achievement of the great Tao great freedom as you wish Bible, and begin crossing the tribulation. You endured the reincarnation top Tao ultimate tribulation. Crossing the tribulation succeeded. Your Tao fruit transformed into the golden immortal Tao fruit. Your cultivation level broke through to the early stage of the innate golden immortal realm. You have practiced qi absorption cultivation for 100 million years. Your cultivation level grows. You have practiced qi absorption cultivation for 500 million years. Your cultivation level breaks through to the middle stage of the innate golden immortal realm. You have practiced qi absorption cultivation for 1 billion years. Your cultivation level breaks through to the late stage of the innate golden immortal realm. Innate golden immortal realm. Guan's face revealed joy, as he had finally broken through successfully. Continue to ascend. The lifespan barrier began to vibrate, and terrifying, vast reincarnation spiritual qi surged towards Guan. In an instant, the lotus sea outside began to sway. Guan used 8 billion years of lifespan, and only then his cultivation level rose from the late stage of the innate golden immortal realm to perfection. He still had 12 billion years of lifespan left, enough for the lifespan barrier to consume. Billowing reincarnation spiritual qi entered Guan's body, and he also felt the reincarnation rules drilling into his being. As more and more reincarnation rules accumulated inside him, numerous images of reincarnation appeared before his eyes, all of which pertained to karmic connections he had with others. He saw the reincarnations of figures like Yang Jian, Xiaochuan, Lu Jiujia, and Yi Yan. He also saw the past lives of Yi Lan and Ji Xiaoyu. Too many images bombarded his vision, yet his expression remained unchanged, and it did not affect his Tao heart. He even began to comprehend the path of reincarnation through this experience. Countless gray lotuses swayed, as if the entire void was about to collapse, possessing a kind of chaotic beauty. Far away, the reincarnation mist churned more violently, as if unimaginable terrifying fierce beasts were about to devour everything. Guan suddenly sensed something and glanced towards the darkness. Indeed, there is a powerful presence. Is it a living spirit, or a lost soul? Or perhaps, does this place harbor a special existence beyond life and death? Guan wondered to himself, sensing an aura not inferior to that of the profound Yuan-free immortal. And to think, this was only the beginning of his breakthrough. Even more powerful entities might emerge later on. He dared not completely immerse himself in the breakthrough, keeping part of his mind outside the barrier, ready to move at a moment's notice. Under the mysterious starry sky, before the celestial Tao golden core, the young immortal emperor was sitting in meditation, his back to the celestial Tao golden core, with a mini-sun floating behind him, burning with golden flames that made him appear akin to a sun god. The sun is the most perfect creation of the heavenly Tao. Any place bathed by the sun is considered a blessed land favored by the heavenly Tao, but there are also strong and weak suns. And Hao stood not far away, looking at the celestial Tao golden core and musing. The young immortal emperor did not open his eyes, but he asked, "How powerful is the sun the heavenly Tao has blessed you with?" And Hao replied, "I don't need the sun from the heavenly Tao. I want to create my own sun." The corners of the young immortal emperor's mouth curled up, and he no longer continued the conversation. After a while, the young immortal emperor suddenly felt something. His eyes snapped open suddenly, and even Hao turned his head to look into the distance. The starry sky showed ripples, as if a lake's surface was disturbed, making the entire cosmos seem so illusory, like the moon reflected in the water, ready to shatter at any moment. "What is this anomaly?" And Hao asked with a frown. Although he had experienced the celestial Tao reincarnation, he had never seen such a phenomenon in this space before. This space consisted of the power of the heavenly Tao, independent of the celestial spirit great world. The young immortal emperor's brows also furrowed. Ever since he first entered this secret realm, 5 million years had passed, and he had never seen such an anomaly. In his eyes, this secret realm was even the safest place in the world. Now seeing the distortion in the starry sky, he felt an inexplicable panic. Could it be that an even more terrifying existence was about to arrive? He began to calculate with his fingers, but even he, having reached the level of the Taoist Zhongzhizai immortal, could not discern anything. Not only in this secret realm, but distortions also began to appear in the celestial vault in various places throughout the celestial spirit great world. The silent extinction domain in outer heaven was even more turbulent with spirit mist, oppressively dense. More and more locations began to experience spatial anomalies, thereby affecting the entire universe. Deep within the silent extinction domain, seated on a throne, Yi Tianji opened his eyes. He looked up and saw visible spatial distortions in the dark void. Is this disturbance in the path of reincarnation? Yi Tianji murmured to himself and looked in another direction. That way lay the world gate. He saw beneath the world gate a towering figure appearing, a powerful form gleaming with white light, as if representing supreme authority, the celestial spirit god. Chapter 493, Tao Fruit Blossoms, Reincarnation Chaos. He has even been alerted. Yi Tianji withdrew his gaze, his eyes flickering, suddenly feeling that the waters of celestial spirit great world were very deep. Whether it was to search for the celestial Tao golden core, or to pursue the descendants of the Long clan, both had become difficult. Could it be that the descendants of the Long clan escaping to this realm was not by chance? Was the mysterious supporting Tao sword venerable merely a sign? What dark forces were hidden behind all this? Yi Tianji looked again at the twisted void, feeling that a mysterious and powerful being was manipulating everything behind the scenes. If he could feel this, not to mention all living beings within the various realms of existence. In a forest within celestial spirit great world, Zhu stood on a tree branch, looking at the twisted celestial vault, her brow furrowed. Reincarnation in chaos, could it be the hidden danger from that entrance? The Yuanshu ancestor of the immortal dynasty opened the reincarnation vortex, allowing the celestial spirit great world direct access to reincarnation, and many cultivators used the reincarnation vortex for reincarnation trials, or to flee to other realms. In Zhu Zai's view, this was an act that disrupted the order of reincarnation. Indeed, chaotic anomalies had now appeared. Zhu suddenly thought about escaping from celestial spirit great world. But her cultivation level simply could not break free from the heavenly Taoist limitations. It seems I can only go to that place to fight for a chance of survival. Zhu thought this way, and then leapt down from the tree branch, walking towards the depths of the forest. On the other side of the world, on a throne inlaid with treasure swords, Zhu Luo Sword Monarch also gazed at the celestial vault. Around him was a large hall without a ceiling, with great swords standing along the edges, their tips pointing skyward, their edges sharp and exposed. Looking at the ceaselessly twisting celestial vault, Zhu Luo Sword Monarch also sensed that the reincarnation rules were in flux, which made his gaze fall on the reincarnation vortex. What exactly is happening there? Zhu Luo Sword Monarch felt puzzled. He then lowered his head, looking at the 8 existing treatises on heavenly Tao floating before him. He was just one treatise away from obtaining the true immortal inheritance. Originally, he was not in a hurry and wanted to enjoy the process, but now with anomalies appearing in reincarnation, he worried that his cultivation level would not withstand future situations, especially since he had heard that the supporting Tao Sword Venerable had left the Supreme Sect over 100 years ago. If supporting Tao Sword Venerable had indeed fled Celestial Spirit Great World, he could not afford to be careless. Zhu Luo Sword Monarch pondered for a moment, and immediately stood up. With a wave of his right hand he gathered the 8 treatises on heavenly Tao into his sleeve, then vanished from the spot. While all living beings were anxious about the anomalies in the celestial vault, this was just the beginning. When the nature's spiritual energy began to descend, the beings were about to face true panic. In the land of reincarnation, the Grey Lotus Sea, Guan was seated on a lotus surrounded by gray mist, with golden light spilling out from within. His eyes closed. He was in the midst of the creation of innate golden immortal. The top of his Tao fruit had cracked open, and a bud was growing out, while the golden light around him was the light of a golden immortal, and the gray mist was the innate chi condensed from spiritual energy and the Tao rules. Upon closer observation, one could see his entire person slowly shrinking. It was an indescribable state of profound mystery. His cultivation level was soaring, striking towards a higher realm. Above his head emerged a chi sea, continuously expanding and annihilating. That was the image of Luo Tian, breaking through heaven encompassing free immortal, returning to the innate state, and sculpting a golden immortal body. Although Guan had not completely broken through yet, he had already acquired many memories about the innate golden immortal. Upon reaching the innate golden immortal realm, the Tao fruit transformed, and both body and soul were reshaped. From then on, the cosmic space could no longer restrain him, and moving through the cycles of yin and yang reincarnation became effortless. As an immortal, golden immortals were stronger than free immortals, and after the Tao fruit of the golden immortal blossomed, it could even create a new world, establishing its own world rules, birthing all living beings, and continuously undergoing reincarnation, thereby allowing the Tao fruit itself to grow continuously. So much fortune and profound mystery were produced by the golden immortal Tao fruit, aiding Guan in better understanding the 3,000 great Tao. During this process, Guan truly felt the vastness and unfathomableness of the great Tao. The great Tao was omnipresent. One could feel its presence upon stepping into the immortal Tao realm, existing quietly without posing any threat to cultivators. But the higher one's realm, the more one could perceive the gap with the great Tao. The eternal and indestructible great Tao was even more stable than the heavens, earth, and the universe. The so-called rules of heaven and earth were also evolved from the great Tao according to the heavens and earth, but the gap between the rules and the great Tao was vast, like the difference between the flame rules and the path of fire. Though they seemed identical, they were fundamentally different. When Guan was immersed in creation, a pair of dark red eyes appeared in the darkness swirling with reincarnation spirit mist, followed by an immensely huge dragon head. This dragon head was pitch black, with blood-red horns and floating whiskers that dispersed the spirit mist, covering 1,000,000 gray lotuses just by poking its head out. The 100-meter lotus beneath Guan appeared minuscule in front of this dragon head. He sensed the appearance of the dragon head, opened his eyes, and his eyes shot out golden light, which did not pass beyond the lifespan barrier. The dragon head swept over the top of Guan's head, followed by an immensely shocking dragon body. This dragon body was actually a murky yellow river, thousands of miles wide, and with an immeasurable length. Looking at the yellow river, Guan could not help but think of the netherworld from the Wuxia mythology. Heaven encompassing free immortal. Guan thought silently. He sensed that this dragon's cultivation level was comparable to that of the heaven-encompassing free immortal, yet its aura was different. When he sent out lifespan detection, he received no response. This indicated that this dragon was not a living creature, and might even lack its own will, but merely possessed a powerful aura. Eventually, the yellow river black dragon disappeared at the other end of the Lotus Sea. Guan did not ponder deeply, and continued to experience the mysteries of the innate golden immortal. As he absorbed more and more reincarnation spiritual chi and reincarnation rules, the anomalies in the land of reincarnation intensified. Gradually, Guan condensed into a golden core. The innate chi around him dispersed, leaving only the light of the golden immortal. The golden core he transformed into a small and trembled slightly. Boom! Suddenly, a huge booming sound appeared above, as rolling spirit mist surged past, flowing unstoppably. Within that spirit mist were countless departed souls, both human and demon. They moved so fast that without careful observation, one could not see the departed souls inside. Countless departed souls converged into a vast sea, sweeping away as if to split the entire land of reincarnation. A golden light drove away the darkness, and a golden Buddha appeared, sitting on a golden lotus, advancing through the sea of departed souls. He was so majestic, not inferior in momentum to the previous yellow river black dragon, and even possessed an additional aura of sanctity. This golden Buddha did not linger, but followed the sea of souls into the darkness and disappeared. Afterward, continuously powerful existences swept across the Lotus Sea. Fortunately, no one attacked the Lotus Sea. Time swiftly passed. The golden core transformed by Guan trembled more violently until cracks appeared on its top, and a new sprout emerged, quickly growing and causing the cracks on the golden core to expand. Chapter 494. Tao Fruit World Golden Core sprouted. The cracks at its top continued to expand, and the newly born bud grew rapidly, as the reincarnation spiritual chi around it began to pour into the fissures of the golden core, forming a vortex of airflow. Once the bud had grown to a certain stage, it began to bloom. At the same time, the golden core beneath it suddenly shattered, and Guan's body appeared, naked and pristine, resembling the most perfect creation in the world. His form began to grow larger as he transformed from his original physique. The Dao fruit within him bloomed as well, evolving into a golden immortal Dao fruit, signifying a successful breakthrough. From this point, he had become an early-stage being of the innate golden immortal realm. His mana transformed into innate magical power, vast like the boundless primordial waters at the dawn of chaos. The phenomenon caused by the lifespan barrier reached another stage, affecting all the heavens and myriad realms, with the spiritual energy of many worlds sinking, and the Dao rules of outer heaven twisting. The major forces of various worlds began to act, investigating the cause or preparing to flee. Chaos. This was the scene playing out in many parts of the great heaven and earth. Even the supreme sect in the celestial spirit great world was thrown into disarray, with Lv even leading people into the third medicine valley, seeking to find Guan's whereabouts. They hoped an Xian could contact Guan, and if not, at least reveal to them the truth behind the heavenly phenomenon to put them at ease. Regrettably, an Xian knew nothing, and after much maneuvering, Lv and the others could only leave with heavy hearts. Longqing came to Anzin's side, looking together in the direction of Lv and the others leaving, and asked, "Senior sister, is Master really going to leave Supreme Sect?" This time Guan's departure had been so long that even the disciples within the Third Medicine Valley began to worry he would leave the Supreme Sect. An Xian looked toward Longqing and asked with a smile, "If Master were to leave, how would you choose?" "Of course I would follow. What other choice could there be?" Longqing answered without hesitation. An Xian followed up, "If you follow Master, you will never be able to enter the mortal world for the rest of your life. You can only cultivate in a place isolated from the world. Would you be willing to do that?" Longqing fell silent. An Xian said, "You can cultivate diligently now because you wish to achieve a higher cultivation level, but if you attain it, could you remain as focused? Don't rush your answer. I'm talking about a lifetime, countless years." Longqing opened his mouth, but no words came out. In one's life, isn't the purpose of cultivating to enjoy a better life? To him, life meant integrating with society, or with the immortal cultivation realm. At this moment, other disciples in the valley were discussing their futures. If their master truly left, what path should they take? It was a matter they had to consider. The celestial vault above was still distorting, occasionally showing unusual rainbows, and the earth's spiritual chi continued to sink, causing the ground to tremble slightly. The tense atmosphere between heaven and earth was still intensifying. It was unknown how much time had passed. Naked, Guan slowly opened his eyes and instinctively pulled up the consumption page of the lifespan barrier, only to find that he had expended 500 million years of lifespan. His cultivation level had reached the middle stage of the innate golden immortal realm. He still had nearly 700 million years of lifespan left. The next breakthrough, wouldn't the consumption of the lifespan barrier amount to several billion years of lifespan? Guan felt a sense of awe in his heart, but he did not feel any regret, as he had already reached a very high realm. How many beings spend their entire lives unable to reach the Zizai immortal realm, let alone cross the Dao fruit realm? Guan continued to wait for his cultivation level to increase. He had gained a certain understanding of innate golden immortal. As the Dao fruit blossomed, the great divine power nurtured in it, the longevity true words, underwent a transformation, and according to his plan, it engendered even more mysteries. As for the world cultivated by the Dao fruit of the golden immortal, it must be studied further. And whether his own world planted with medicinal herbs could seize lifespan was unknown to him. The world nurtured by the Dao fruit was intrinsically a part of him. There was no seizing lifespan from oneself for oneself. Moreover, this world could not directly bring external objects into it, and required a lengthy evolution, not an instant formation. The world of a golden immortal could be illusory or real. If it could not increase his lifespan, he would not allow the golden immortal world to become reality, but keep it for cultivation of the great Tao. Guan looked up and saw, in the depths of the darkness, Another colossal entity. Its aura on par with a perfected profound yuan-free immortal. Indeed, the land of reincarnation was more terrifying than the universe. During his breakthrough, he had already encountered many auras of profound yuan-free immortals, and even those of heaven-encompassing free immortals. He hoped not to encounter an innate golden immortal. Having just broken through to this great realm, Guan did not wish to immediately encounter a being of the same realm. He found he still could not perform lifespan detection on the formidable beings that appeared. It seemed the land of reincarnation had no living creatures. No, not just non-living. Wait. Guan suddenly realized something and felt a chill run down his spine. Could it be that the land of reincarnation he entered was the Tao fruit world of some powerful being? Hence, everything he saw was close to a real existence in an illusory world? He had previously detected beings without lifespan, at least managing to ascertain their realm, but now he could not even detect the realm of those passing by. Guan's wariness of the land of reincarnation surged, but he was within a lifespan barrier and not afraid. If there really was some kind of will behind this illusory world that he had alarmed, it would have acted already, not leaving him to speculate until now. The universe has celestial spirit gods, and the land of reincarnation harbors even more mysterious entities. All things considered, the celestial spirit great world is safer. Guan thought to himself, deciding that he would still establish his lifespan dojo in the celestial spirit great world, just not in the supreme sect. He planned to hide again in the secular world, waiting for an era to pass. Given the current cosmic situation, a battle court invasion was inevitable, which might even alarm the celestial spirit gods. Guan didn't want to expose himself or be seen as a thorn in the side of these powerful beings. Moreover, with his non-interference, the evolution of the cosmic situation wouldn't progress so swiftly, giving him more time to grow stronger. Perfect, they've long wanted to venture out into the world. Guan's lips curved into a smile, and his mood brightened at the thought of the 3 celestial demon children. He closed his eyes and continued to wait for his cultivation level to increase. About an hour later, his cultivation level had reached the perfection of the innate golden immortal realm. With just over 100 million years of lifespan remaining, he rose to his feet, and his robes materialized on his body, followed by a belt, immortal king crown, and other items. After dressing himself, while the reincarnation phenomenon was still present, he stepped forward and directly entered the reincarnation vortex. With another step, he landed within the mountains and rivers of the celestial spirit great world. Standing on a cliff, he faced the wind, then raised his arms, basking in the earth's spiritual chi breeze. The celestial vault was still distorting, and the wind existed because of the sinking spiritual energy. Yet he, the one who caused all these phenomena, had finished his breakthrough as if it was all unrelated to him. Having become an innate golden immortal, the celestial spirit great world seemed small to him. He could pay attention to all things simultaneously, and if he willed it, the rate of all things evolution before his eyes could dramatically slow down. He exercised his limbs for a while, then turned to descend the mountain. The reason for coming to these mountains was their remoteness from the immortal dynasty and holy court, lying on the edge of the celestial spirit great world, and comparatively peaceful relative to other areas. There was even a town not more than 10 miles away, and within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, the level of immortal cultivation was low, without a single being of the immortal Tao realm or demon. Most importantly, a person from his past had reincarnated here. After entering the forest, the phenomena began to subside. The chirping of insects in the woods gradually resumed, and sunlight filtered through the leaves to the ground, forming patches of light. Chapter 495. Mountain Immortal. Battle court attack. In an open area of the forest, 5 children were sitting by a stream, resting. Among them, the tallest boy sat on a rock, holding a vine in his hand, his gaze fixed deep into the mountain woods, his eyebrows tightly knit. A girl in tattered clothes turned her head to look at the boy on the rock and asked, "Big brother, how much farther do we have to go? Let's not run into demons later." The other 3 boys chimed in agreement. They were all tired from walking and wanted to go home for a meal. The boy known as Big Brother was named Yi Xiaoyang. He glared at his companions and said, "What demons? We're here to seek immortals. If you're sincere in your heart, you'll encounter spirits. What's the rush? We've hardly walked any distance at all." Tang monk had to travel 81,000 li to retrieve the scriptures. Upon hearing this, the three boys looked even more pitiable. "But even if you're Tang monk, we're no Sun Wukong or Zhu Beiji. Yeah, I'm so hungry. Big Brother, can you bring more cakes next time we go out?" Yi Xiaoyang was infuriated. He jumped off the rock, ready to chastise his companions, when the sight ahead caught his attention. He stared with wide eyes, completely petrified. The girl in rags turned her head to look as well, equally frozen in place. Seeing the two of them react like this, the other three turned to look, following their gaze. A handsome man in white emerged from under the shade of the trees, a treasure sword at his waist, a delicate crown on his head. Together with his peerless handsome face, he appeared like an immortal descending to the mortal realm. An immortal, truly an immortal. One of the boys murmured to himself, unable to help but rub his eyes. The newcomer was in fact Guan, who cast lifespan detection at Yi Xiaoyang. Yi Xiaoyang, unrefined Qi 14/85/4999. His maximum lifespan is not bad. Lu Jiojia has been born into a good life this time. That's what Guan thought to himself. Then he proceeded to deploy lifespan detection at the other four children. He discovered that their maximum lifespans were also quite impressive, with the shortest being 3,000 years. A cluster of talents? Guan stopped across the stream and with a gentle smile asked, "Little fellows, what are you doing here? Aren't you afraid of running into bad people?" Yi Xiaoyang snapped out of his trance, asking excitedly, "Are you the immortal from the mountains?" The other four also looked at Guan nervously and expectantly. Guan, instead of answering, countered with a question. "Do you want to cultivate toward immortality?" At his question, the 5 kids, boys and girls alike, became even more excited, replying in a flurry, "Of course we do. Big Brother, please teach us. You must be an immortal. I've never seen anyone like you. Yeah, Big Brother, we really want to cultivate toward immortality." Seeing this group of lively, excited children, Guan, who was already in a good mood, grew even more delighted. It was hard to see such vivacious kids in the Third Medicine Valley. Guan cleared his throat with a cough and said with a hint of mystery, "I do know a bit about immortal cultivation. But if I teach you, can you promise not to tell anyone else, including your families?" At his words, the children, without a second thought, immediately agreed. "Come here tomorrow, and I will impart to you the art of immortal cultivation," Guan said with a smile, his gaze then drifting to the celestial vault. The battle court had begun to stir again. They were targeting young immortal emperor, with the provocation of worldly unusual phenomena also playing a part. The battle court feared an unprecedented catastrophic reincarnation calamity was upon them, one that might overturn all heavens and myriad realms, so they wished to seize the celestial Tao golden core before that, and also to slay Longqing. They were afraid Longqing might escape into the reincarnation, having previously evaded them that way. Longqing's ancestors had even utilized reincarnation to flee all the way from outside the universe to this cosmos, using the celestial spirit god to foil their plans. This time, how would young immortal emperor withstand the battle court? The celestial Tao golden core could not grant him greater power. Hearing Gu An's words, Yi Xiaoyang and his friends suddenly got anxious, feeling as if Guan was deceiving them. Despite Gu An's persuasion, they could only suppress their anxieties and head back home. Yi Xiaoyang took a few steps, then couldn't help but look back, seeing Guan standing by the stream with a smile, watching him and his friends leave. He felt inexplicably dazed. For some reason, he felt a kinship with Guan, an attachment so strong that it filled him with reluctance to leave right now. He feared that once he left, he might never see Guan again. Yi Xiaoyang opened his mouth, wanting to say something. Guan looked at him and smiled. "Hurry back home. Tomorrow I'm still waiting for you guys to tell me the story of Journey to the West." At these words, Yi Xiaoyang's heart settled down. He chuckled and quickly turned to catch up with his companions' retreating figures. As Guan watched them leave, He thought to himself, the name Panin sure has spread widely. Not just Journey to the West, but the investiture of the gods and romance of the three kingdoms have also made their way to this land. Guan saw the driving force behind this. Someone wanted to open up the aspiration for immortal cultivation among the mortal spirits of this land. Guan didn't care too much. A cultivator of the profound heart realm couldn't influence his decision to open the lifespan dojo. He didn't return to the supreme sect, but instead, he walked in another direction. He was going to choose a suitable place to open the lifespan dojo. When the time came, he would move the world-excluding Cave Heaven and the 8 scenic Cave Heaven there, hiding them underground. As for the Third Medicine Valley, Profound Valley, End of the World Valley, Mountain God Temple, he wouldn't touch them. He would just occasionally go to harvest medicinal herbs. He wanted the people of the Supreme Sect to gradually get used to life without him, so that when he truly left, the Supreme Sect wouldn't collapse. Once the dojo was established, he could let the celestial demon child and the other 2 girls move around in the woods, no longer confined to the world-excluding Cave Heaven. In the depths of the void, countless figures were flying, surrounding a colossal palace with 9 suns floating above, radiating dazzling heavenly might. Yi Tianji, the master of the battle court, sat on his throne, with the image of the celestial spirit great world reflected in his eyes. A man with wings stood on the palace, also looking towards the distance. He turned his head to speak to Yi Tianji. That young immortal emperor is merely at the Taoist Zongzizai immortal's cultivation level. There's no need for you to take action. Just send another person to join forces with me. The Taoist Zongzizai immortal who had invaded the immortal dynasty before was him, defeated by the young immortal emperor, which left him feeling humiliated and eager for revenge. Yi Tianji, expressionless, said, "No need. Make this operation quick. Kill those who should be killed, take what should be taken, then return." The reincarnation phenomenon of the past 2 days had unsettled him, and recalling the legends of the celestial spirit great world from before, he felt he could delay no longer. The winged man held his tongue upon hearing this. His gaze was suddenly drawn to the 9 suns above Yi Tianji's head. He saw mysterious figures within the suns, flickering in and out of visibility as if they were in another dimension. That is, the winged man's pupils suddenly constricted, his heart churning with shock. He hadn't expected Yi Tianji to summon them. Could there be some terrifying existence hidden within the celestial spirit great world that he didn't know about? Was it the supporting Dao sword venerable? The winged man looked away, his gaze returning to the direction of the celestial spirit great world. The mighty army of the battle court moved forward through the void, as if nothing could stop them. Meanwhile, in the celestial spirit great world above, numerous figures suddenly appeared on the celestial Tao light layer. Great cultivators from every corner noticed the arrival of the battle court. An indescribable sense of oppression was enveloping the celestial spirit great world. The higher one's realm, the faster they felt it. This reminded many of the time when the profound desolate demon god had attacked. Elsewhere, Guan was in the Third Medicine Valley, sitting in his chair, listening to an Exian recount the recent events within the Medicine Valley. After an Exian finished, she asked with a hint of grievance, "Master, when exactly are we leaving? If we're not leaving now, it's difficult for me to face them." Guan smiled. "Why are you in more of a hurry than I am? You don't have to face those people from the sect. Have you chosen someone? Let's go with Long Qing. I can see that he doesn't want to retreat from the world with us." An Exian casually replied. Unlike the others, she truly wished to put aside mundane affairs and enter prolonged cultivation. Guan smiled. "All right, then it shall be him." His prompt agreement surprised an Exian. "Master, didn't you say he carries a great cause and effect? Are you sure you can trust him to handle things on his own?" An Exian curiously asked. Exactly what great cause and effect Long Qing carried. Not to mention himself, an Exian was also very curious. Guan answered, "It doesn't matter. The great cause and effect he's carrying will dissipate soon." Chapter 496. The world grows dark, disperse? What does that mean? An Xian asked curiously. She had watched Long Qing grow up and considered him her own child, naturally wishing him a lifetime of peace. The so-called great cause and effect sounded like a deep-seated vendetta. So how could she not worry? Guan gave her a look and said, "Why so many questions? When your cultivation level is higher, you will naturally understand everything." An Xian pouted and said, "Isn't that why I'm waiting for you to take me away? Once we find a quiet place, I'll seclude myself for 1,000 years, 10,000 years. When I emerge, I will surely be an enlightened master." In her perception, 10,000 years was an incredibly long time. She believed that if she cultivated for 10,000 years in the human world, she would definitely be considered a powerful being. Guan didn't discourage her, but instead said, "Let Long Qing prepare." An Xian nodded, raised her hand in a salute, and then turned to leave. Although she was very close to Guan and often bickered with him, she never forgot the proper courtesies when needed. An Xian left the house, closed the door behind her, and then walked down the stairs. A female disciple passing by asked curiously, "Big sister, the master isn't here. What are you doing going up there?" An Xian replied, "Even though master isn't here, I still have to manage things. We can't let the master return to find the house full of dust." The female disciple felt that made sense. She stepped forward, linked arms with an Xian, and began to sigh, wondering when the master would return. An Xian casually comforted her, and the two walked off into the distance. The third medicine valley was still bustling, the disciples busy with their own tasks, unaware that a disaster was about to strike. As time passed, more and more beings felt the terrifying pressure from the battle court. When the disciples of the third medicine valley felt the pressure from the battle court, chaos had already erupted across the world. Most living beings did not know where the pressure was coming from and felt only fear. They fled in panic, finding that no matter where they ran, the pressure only increased, amplifying their fear. Guan saw that the young immortal emperor and the saint minister hastened to outer heaven. They were preparing to negotiate with the battle court. The oppression from the battle court this time was even stronger than the profound desolate demon god before, wearing down even the confident young immortal emperor and the ambitious saint minister. Especially the young immortal emperor. He felt that no matter how much he gave, he would always face an insurmountable enemy. For the saint minister, he could no longer care about his ambitions, focusing only on how to lead the holy court through the difficult times ahead. Xingtian had already abandoned them. What was the holy court's next move? That night, all beings found it hard to sleep. The next morning, Guan arrived early at the forest, waiting for Yi Xiaoyang and his 4 companions. He sat on a rock by a small stream, looking up at outer heaven, where the young immortal emperor and the saint minister faced the profound yuan-free immortal in a grand hall. The negotiation appeared to be going poorly. Guan was not interested in the profound yuan-free immortal seated above. He was curious about the 9 suns. The 9 suns hid 9 profound yuan-free immortals, the suns acting like some sort of gateway, the spaces connected originating from other universes. From the aura of the great Tao emanating from within, Guan could tell they did not come from this universe, and each originated from a different universe. What puzzled Guan more was why the celestial spirit god wasn't taking action. The celestial spirit god was meditating in front of the world gate, previously absent, clearly drawn by the disturbance caused by Gu An's breakthrough. Could it be that the battle court had reached some sort of agreement with the celestial spirit god? Guan could determine that there was no direct connection between the celestial spirit god and the battle court, because the celestial spirit god had a dense aura of celestial Tao destiny, which was not the kind of destiny that belonged to the battle court. Meanwhile, on the massive battle court, the young immortal emperor and the saint minister stood side by side, looking up at the formidable Yi Tianji like they were gazing at a deity, the light from the 9 suns illuminating their faces, highlighting their grim expressions. The grand hall was surrounded by floating figures, all sneering at the young immortal emperor and the saint minister, as if they were looking down on reptiles. The saint minister took a deep breath and said, "We indeed do not know who the descendant of the Long clan is, and there are countless incarnations of heavenly demons among the heaven and earth. As for the celestial Tao golden core, He glanced at the young immortal emperor, then turned to Yi Tianji and said, "If the celestial Tao Golden Core were to leave the celestial spirit great world, the celestial spirit great world would shatter. How is that different from killing us directly?" Yi Tianji was expressionless and said, "The difference is you can live. At this point, do you still want to save others?" The Saint Minister furrowed his brow. If he really only cared about his own life, he could have escaped from the celestial spirit great world long ago. At this moment, he could only place his hopes on the supporting Tao Sword Venerable. He was just trying his best to stall for time, waiting for the supporting Tao Sword Venerable to make his move. The young immortal emperor spoke up. "Aren't you afraid of the heavenly Taoist backlash?" Yi Tianji snorted. "Heavenly Taoist backlash? It seems you don't know what heavenly Tao really is. Indeed, a mere mortal trying to reach for the celestial Tao immortal position has deceived you all in the great heaven and earth. It's truly sad, but it's also the fault of that being." Upon hearing this, the young immortal emperor wanted to ask more, but Yi Tianji continued, "Enough, no more stalling. It seems the supporting Tao Sword Venerable you are hoping for has already left." While the Saint Minister was delaying, Yi Tianji was also waiting. Before coming here, he knew about the supporting Tao Sword Venerable's feat in annihilating a split body of the silent destruction god emperor. He was sure that the supporting Tao Sword Venerable must be the profound Yuan-free immortal. For this, he even specially invited 9 fellows of the same realm to help. Although he didn't say it out loud, he was actually very wary of the supporting Tao Sword Venerable, so he didn't make a move immediately, wanting to see what the supporting Tao Sword Venerable had to say. However, the night had passed, and the supporting Tao Sword Venerable had made no move. Yi Tianji guessed that the supporting Tao Sword Venerable might have been scared away by the reincarnation phenomenon. It was normal, given that the phenomenon capable of causing such fear was unimaginable, and certainly not something the profound Yuan-free immortal could match. As for whether it was the supporting Tao Sword Venerable, he never even considered that possibility. He learned from the 9 fellows above him that other universes also had such phenomena, with an unimaginably vast scope. The faces of the young immortal emperor and the Saint Minister changed drastically. They hadn't expected Yi Tianji to know what they were waiting for. Yi Tianji raised his right hand, and seeing this, the young immortal emperor immediately began cultivating energy. The powerful aura of the Taoist Zhongzhizai immortal suddenly burst forth, and the Saint Minister of the Zizai immortal realm, standing next to the young immortal emperor, lacking the strength, was immediately pressured to retreat in a flash. The creatures surrounding the grand hall in the battle court all turned and faced the young immortal emperor, their auras likewise bursting forth. Even the young immortal emperor, a Taoist Zhongzhizai immortal, changed color at their intensity. He had long felt that the surrounding creatures were powerful, but he hadn't expected that many would have a cultivation level higher than his own. How were they supposed to fight now? The young immortal emperor looked towards Yi Tianji, his face intensely uneasy, his eyes filled with a chilling look as he tried hard not to show any signs of fear. Yi Tianji's smile was wild and contemptuous as he directed the palm of his right hand towards the celestial spirit great world. In an instant, the entire celestial spirit great world shifted abruptly from daytime into nighttime, with neither the bright moon nor the stars visible. Walking through the forest, Yi Xiaoyang and his 4 companions screamed in fright, hurriedly hugging each other, no longer daring to move forward, with some even scared to tears. The cultivators and demons standing on the celestial Tao light layer were utterly horrified. Under their watchful eyes, an indescribable giant hand descended from above the universe, stretching towards the celestial spirit great world. The vast and boundless celestial spirit great world seemed like a small pebble in front of this giant hand, about the size of a finger. From far atop the grand hall, both the young immortal emperor and the Saint Minister stared in shock. The descendant of the Long clan, it's time to awaken. Yi Tianji's voice resounded throughout the celestial spirit great world. Under the darkness, his voice seemed like that of a demon god from the abyss, instilling endless terror into all living beings. In the Third Medicine Valley, Long Qing was looking up at the night sky when he suddenly sensed something, and abruptly clutched his head as a flood of memories burst forth from the depths of his mind, assaulting his spirit. He had never felt such intense pain in his head before, as if it were going to explode. In pain, he then knelt on the ground. As the world had already darkened, everyone else was watching the night sky, and no one noticed his abnormality. How could this be? Longqing gritted his teeth and murmured to himself, struggling as he saw himself fighting and slaughtering across a realm filled with the blood of all living beings, his world tinged with red. Chapter 497. Is this the battle court you take pride in? Guan heard Yi Tianji's words but did not take action. He watched Yi Tianji help Longqing awaken his past life memories. It's time for this young man to face his own destiny. If Guan had helped him recover his memories, Longqing might still have entertained some hope. Now that Yi Tianji was helping him awaken the memories, Longqing realized just how heavy the causality he bore was. Guan couldn't take care of Longqing forever. Longqing was already over 1,000 years old. It was time to face his destiny. The fate of the Long clan, though tragic, was also wrought with many evil deeds. Their downfall was lamentable, yet seemed only natural. Of course, there were good people in the Long clan, but because of Long Zhan, the clan was prone to producing violent individuals. Just like Longqing, Guan could see that in his past life, Longqing had also committed evils. Guan defended Longqing from the battle court as a favor for Long Zhan. Moreover, since the battle court was no good either, destroying it would mean Guan was thoroughly erasing the causality left by Long Zhan. The battle court was created by Long Zhan, and Longqing was his only descendant. Guan felt it necessary to reverse this bad karma. Besides, if he did not intervene, the celestial spirit Great World would probably not withstand the battle court's assault, which was not something he wanted to see. Guan looked up at the night sky, his divine sense locking onto Yi Tianji, as he examined the deeper causality of the battle court. The battle court that had descended upon the celestial spirit Great World was merely a branch, just as the silent destruction god emperor before it. The real battle court was being blocked outside the world gate. If Guan were to destroy this branch of the battle court, then it would mean a fight to the death with the real battle court. To this, he was not afraid. What he dreaded was only the group of immortal gods, not the battle court. The causes that arise from me shall be eradicated by me. Guan looked at the night sky, thinking so, his face as calm as ever. In the void, atop a grand palace, the young immortal emperor and the saint minister trembled as they looked at the terrifying giant hand above the celestial spirit Great World. They had no will to fight in the face of such a hand, only a sense of despair. Even though the young immortal emperor had glimpsed such a vision in the celestial Tao Golden Core, when he saw it for real, he was chilled to the bone. How vast was the celestial spirit Great World! Yet it seemed insignificant before this colossal hand. The young immortal emperor turned his head, looking at Yi Tianji, and with gritted teeth asked, "Who exactly are you all? And from where have you come? If you want us dead, can you at least let us die in the know?" Yi Tianji's right hand was half raised. Upon closer examination, his hand's shape was identical to the giant hand above the celestial spirit Great World, intensifying the pressure on the young immortal emperor. Facing the young immortal emperor's inquiry, Yi Tianji sneered, "Then I shall satisfy your curiosity. We come from the battle court. My name is Yi Tianji, and I possess the power to discern heavenly secrets. The destinies of both of you lay clear before my eyes. You are destined to die, without even the hope of reincarnation." The battle court. The saint minister seemed to remember something, his eyes revealing a horrified expression. The young immortal emperor, however, fell silent. Not that he had chosen to surrender without a fight, but because a domineering power suppressed him, leaving him immobilized. All he could do now was wait for his death. He didn't even dare to use the power of the celestial Tao Golden Core, fearing Yi Tianji would detect its existence. Finally found it. It really was under the care of the supporting Tao Sword Venerable. Yi Tianji suddenly said, redirecting the thoughts of the young immortal emperor and the saint minister. The supporting Tao Sword Venerable became the only hope in their minds. They clung to this lifeline like drowning individuals, their eyes lighting up. Yi Tianji then lifted his left hand, reaching toward the palm of his right. But at that moment, a hand suddenly landed on his shoulder, causing his heart to jolt violently, and his pupils to dilate. In his view, the young immortal emperor suddenly grew larger. Not just the young immortal emperor, but everything around became enlarged. No, it was he who had shrunk. His gaze drifted sideways unconsciously, and from the corner of his eye, he saw a figure shrouded in a dark purple demonic chi. It was this figure's hand pressing down on his shoulder, shrinking him to the size of a mortal. The battle court beings around the grand palace turned their gaze to him, figures appearing out of thin air before Yi Tianji, surrounding Guan, who had performed the celestial dark purple micro Saint Dao body. The celestial dark purple micro Saint Dao body was a transformation of the demon shadow divine skill, possessing an even greater mystery and creation. Guan had chosen to appear in this form, wishing to intervene under the identity of the supporting Dao Sword Venerable. He was unconcerned about being surrounded by 9 profound Yuan-free immortals. Even if he stood still, those 9 profound Yuan-free immortals wouldn't be able to breach the defense of the celestial dark purple micro Saint Dao body. Guan's eyes settled on Yi Tianji. Yi Tianji, late stage of the profound Yuan-free immortal realm 1, 209, 827, 298/30, 000, 000, 000/50, 000, 000, 000, a 12 billion year existence. A lifespan of 30 billion years. Not too bad, worth taking action for. Guan's gaze flickered towards the 9 venerable profound Yuan self-free immortals around him, only to discover that he could not conduct lifespan detection on them. That indicated these 9 were not their true forms. Their auras seemed just like that of living spirits. No wonder those 9 suns connected to other universes. They were merely some special power transmission channels. For their true bodies to come here, they probably needed to pass through a world gate. Seeing Yi Tianji shrink, young immortal emperor was momentarily stunned, and then saw Guan's figure, supporting Dao Sword Venerable. Young immortal emperor became excited, ecstatic with joy. The distant saint minister followed his gaze, equally surprised. His senior had indeed taken action. Yi Tianji glanced at Guan with a taut heart that gradually calmed and coldly said, "Supporting Dao Sword Venerable, you truly have taken action. What exactly is your relationship with the Long clan?" The 9 venerable profound Yuan self-free immortals all around emitted black gas, their true faces obscured, as mysterious as Guan. They didn't speak, but their mana had already formed a barrier to prevent Guan from escaping. Guan could even feel their invisible power attempting to probe the surface of his celestial dark purple micro Saint Dao body, but they simply could not achieve it. I have said, do not involve all living beings. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from. Guan's voice sounded, hoarse and ice-cold, with utmost killing intent that brought Yi Tianji's recently stabilized emotions of terror surging back. Yi Tianji felt the same as young immortal emperor. Unable to move. Mana nearly solidified inside. How could this be? Could it be that he has surpassed the profound Yuan self-free immortal realm? Yi Tianji suddenly sensed danger. He had estimated Guan to the highest degree, yet Guan was even more powerful than he had anticipated. What brought profound Yuan self-free immortal to this shattered great thousand world? Yi Tianji couldn't understand, and at the same time, he felt Guan had no relation to the Long clan. The Long clan did not possess such a powerful being. If they did, how could they end up in such a plight? In an instant, he thought of many possibilities, even considering Guan as an enemy of the battle court. Fellow Taoist, do you truly wish to oppose the battle court? With such cultivation level, hidden in the shattered great thousand world, for what reason? The descendants of the Long clan aren't worth your concealment here. Could it be that you came for the celestial Dao Golden Core? Laughable, for the sake of all living beings? If all living beings aren't here, why the pretense? The surrounding 9 venerable profound Yuan self-free immortals spoke in succession, their tones full of hostility. In their view, Guan did not come to protect all living beings, but purely aimed to interfere with the actions of the battle court. Guan slowly raised his head, looking down upon them. Boom! A golden light burst forth from within him, in an instant scattering the 9 venerable profound Yuan self-free immortals. Tao protecting divine essence. And he had unleashed it with the full force of the perfected profound Yuan self-free immortal realm. Enough to disperse these not true form beings. The black gas exploded, drifting in front of Yi Tianji, whose pupils suddenly shrank, his face revealing disbelief. The battle court powerhouses around the Grand Hall were also scared, retreating en masse, distancing themselves from the Grand Hall, including the man with double wings who had previously battled with Yang Immortal Emperor, not daring to get close. Guan looked down, gazing at Yi Tianji and said, "Is this what you're proud of, your battle court?" Yi Tianji, enveloped by fear that penetrated his Dao heart, opened his mouth to speak when a terrifying karmic force came from all around, instantly annihilating him. Physical form annihilated, soul and spirit scattered, even his karma wiped clean. The entire void fell silent at once. Young Immortal Emperor, looking up at Guan standing high, was dumbstruck, his body trembling non-stop. The Saint Minister was equally shaken. When Yi Tianji's oppressive force suddenly vanished, he collapsed to the ground, his gaze fixed upon Guan, as if a mortal spirit looked up to a god. Chapter 498. Sword Against Sword, the time-transcending struggle of Sword Dao. You have successfully seized 2,809,837,622 years of lifespan from Yi Tianji, profound Yuan-free immortal, late stage. Looking at the prompt before him, Gu An's mood improved, and he looked up. The warriors from the battle court maintained their distance, staring incredulously at the grand temple. Yi Tianji had vanished directly under Gu An's hand, making it feel surreal for them. In their minds, Yi Tianji was so powerful, how could he have died so easily? It wasn't until the giant hand above the celestial spirit great world suddenly dissipated that the warriors of the battle court snapped back to reality. Our Lord has fallen. How is that possible? Who is he exactly? And those divine envoys too. Bad news. Run. It can't be, absolutely impossible. The battle court exploded into chaos, with many warriors promptly fleeing. Gu An's right foot shifted slightly, and in an instant, several warriors from the battle court burst apart, turning into mist of blood that spread across the void. Since he was taking action, how could he not earn some more lifespan? However, he wouldn't kill all these creatures from the battle court. Doing so would seem like a vendetta. He wanted to continue maintaining the image of someone acting on behalf of all beings of the celestial spirit great world. Randomly selecting a few creatures from the battle court to eliminate was an unfortunate fate that befell them. One prompt after another appeared before Guan, making his mood even more delightful. Protecting all living beings while profiting himself, how could he not be pleased? Young Immortal Emperor and Saint Minister still stood in place, despondent as the warriors of their battle court were so easily defeated in front of supporting Dao Sword Venerable. They felt both excitement and despair. They thought about their own ambitions and previous schemes, and suddenly felt how ridiculous their past selves were. At the same time, they admired supporting Dao Sword Venerable even more. Possessing such strength yet still interacting gently with them demonstrated a powerful attitude of kindness towards the weaker. Soon, the void fell into silence again. Guan felt many powerful divine senses sweep across but quickly withdraw. This battle eventually did alarm some beings of great power in the depths of the universe. Yet no one dared provoke Guan. They even regretted their curiosity, fearing being targeted by Guan. Without interacting with Young Immortal Emperor and the other, Guan soared up, collecting 9 suns into the palm of his hand, and then headed towards the depths of the universe. The creatures of the celestial spirit great world returned to daylight. And as the oppressive terror enveloping the world vanished, they began to communicate, discussing what exactly had happened. Even without clear understanding of the events, they felt like they had narrowly escaped a disaster. Long Qing was still kneeling on the ground, holding his head with both hands, gasping heavily in extreme agony. Eventually, people noticed his condition and gathered around. Even an Xian was drawn over. Watching supporting Dao Sword Venerable disappear into the depths of the universe, Saint Minister approached young immortal emperor, frowning. Has he left? Young immortal emperor glanced at him asking, why do you say that? Supreme sect is widely spreading that supporting Tao Sword Venerable is leaving them. It's been over 100 years since he last returned. This time, Saint Minister hesitated. He had spies within Supreme sect and thoroughly knew their every affair. On hearing this, young immortal emperor frowned. Standing in Gu An's place, he too felt that Guan might grow weary. From his understanding, Guan was indeed a great cultivator who lived in seclusion and coveted nothing. Just the thought of such a great power leaving the celestial spirit great world made him feel uneasy inevitably. Could the reincarnation phenomenon from a few days ago portend an even more terrible calamity? Both young immortal emperor and Saint Minister fell into silence while the grand temple of the battle court completely submerged into darkness, losing all light. In the darkness, Saint Minister mournfully said, regardless of whether he leaves or not, his deeds today must be known to all. That so-called heavenly Tao has never helped us. Only he has shouldered everything. Even though young immortal emperor, endowed with the celestial Tao golden core power, harbored no fondness for the so-called heavenly Tao, he replied, I think so too. Even if he does not return, even if we eventually face the end, at least while we are alive, we should be grateful to him. In the dark void, Guan stepped forward, toying with 9 golden pearls in his hand. These were the previous 9 suns, encapsulated with an abundance of power of the great Tao. He was washing away the causality within them. His journey deep into the universe was not to deliberately mislead the too young immortal emperor, but for other reasons. He halted his stride and said, You've been watching for a long time. Isn't it time to show yourself? As his words fell, a silver-blue sword chi appeared through the thick heavenly Tao mist ahead, swiftly transforming into a human figure. This was a man dressed in a blue Taoist robe, with hair white as frost, a crown atop his head resembling a sword scabbard, his back against the darkness, emitting an ancient and vicissitudinous aura. His gaze was exceedingly sharp, standing there like an eternal divine sword, immortal through the ages. Sword God, early stage of heaven encompassing free immortal realm 0/0/0. Age, current lifespan, and maximum lifespan all 0. Either it's a flesh and blood avatar or not a living being. Similar in nature to divine exotic ghost king, bereft of lifespan and freedom, bound to some formidable power in exchange for eternal life. Guan stared at the sword god, feeling somewhat sentimental. This sword god was precisely Yang Xian's disciple, Yang Pingon. Compared to the Yang Pingon of reincarnation memories, this sword god was more vicissitudinous, radiating a twilight aura. Yet his sword intent in his eyes was stronger than what Guan remembered of him. In a sense, Yang Pingon had surpassed Yang Xian, who died only as a profound yuan-free immortal. Yang Xian, a 300,000-year-old profound yuan-free immortal, thinking back, his talent was terrifying to the extreme, even without relying on evolved lifespan. Not to mention celestial spirit god, the sword god Yang Pingon was the first heaven-encompassing free immortal Guan had encountered. Guan had earlier sensed Yang Pingon's sword chi, albeit fleetingly. Re-encountering his former disciple in a past life, Guan's feelings were complex. The sword god raised his right hand, using his finger as a sword, sword chi spilling from the tip. He stared at Guan and said, Your sword Tao is strong, the opponent I've been seeking. Guan maintaining his celestial dark purple micro-Saint Tao body. The sword god, unable to see his expression, confusedly asked, Opponent? I traverse the great thousand world, seeking strong sword Tao practitioners, all to achieve the strongest sword Tao, and you are qualified to be my opponent. The sword god's tone was devoid of emotion, but as his words concluded, a vast sword intent enveloped the void. Guan distinctly felt the celestial spirit god beneath the world gate open its eyes, staring at them. The previous commotion at the battle court failed to attract the celestial spirit god, but the sword god's sword intent did stir in immortal, enough to prove the sword god's might. Such domineering sword intent. Guan raised his right hand, and the celestial star sword granted by Liu appeared in his grasp. This sword, regarded as a divine weapon in the mortal world, was less sturdy here than a meteor. Yet as Guan's sword chi covered the blade, this sword from the mortal world became the sharpest sword in the universe. The sword god's expression subtly changed, and for some reason, he felt a sense of familiarity emanating from Guan. He lowered his right hand, sword chi directed downward, as if holding a sword. The void dimmed, the great Tao mist surged, their confrontation causing fluctuations in the space. Let me see how strong you've become after enduring such long eras. That was what Guan thought. Yang Xian's only wish before death was to spar with his disciple to elevate his sword Tao. Unfortunately, the celestial spirit god hadn't given him the chance. You remind me of someone from the past. I will not hold back. The sword god spoke, his sword intent suddenly erupting. The surrounding great Tao mist was instantly obliterated, absolute darkness threatening to engulf them, yet unable to swallow their sword light. Sword against sword, this was a confrontation of sword Tao across the ages. Chapter 499. Establishing a dojo when the sword god's sword intent erupted. Guan glimpsed into his past through it. During the lengthy ages, that series of peak sword battles continuously pushed the sword god's sword Tao to even higher levels. After defeating an opponent, he would devour their sword Tao, thereby enhancing his own sword Tao. The sword god raised his right hand, pointing his sword chi at Guan from afar. In an instant, countless sword shadows appeared from the darkness behind him, radiating different sword intents like a starry sky suddenly alight. The vast sword light shone on Guan, yet it could not expel the demonic chi emanating from his celestial dark purple micro Saint Tao body. Guan then raised his sword, pointing the celestial star sword directly at the sword god. As he lifted his sword, an incredibly grandiose silver sword shadow appeared behind him, rapidly solidifying, colossal as the heavens and the earth. If one were to move the celestial spirit great world over, they would find it to be only half as long as this sword. Eternal infinite divine sword. The ultimate swordsmanship evolved from the Leaf family swordsmanship. Guan did not use Yang Xian's sacred heart sword Tao, fearing the sword god would recognize it. Even without the sacred heart sword Tao, he was confident he could defeat the sword god. Even if they were at the same realm. Having merged the memories of Long Zhan, Lu Han, Zhu and Yang Xian from past lives, Guan had effectively become these individuals. Coupled with his own lifespan evolution investment, his strength was unfathomably profound. Apart from the unsolvable Zhu, within the same realm, Guan felt it very unlikely for him to lose, especially since he was not in the same realm as the sword god. The imposing sword intent of the eternal infinite divine sword was like the universe's sharpest will, causing the sword god to furrow his brow slightly. The sword god did not underestimate Guan, but he was still frightened by Guan's sword intent. What is the name of this sword Tao? The sword god asked. Eternal infinite divine sword. Guan pointed his sword at him, and the eternal infinite divine sword in its state of simplicity and truth burst forth with a dazzling bright light, illuminating half the universe's void. After the sword god muttered eternal infinite divine sword, he promptly waved his hand, and his sword chi slashed out. The endless sword shadows behind him also erupted into vast sword chi, sweeping toward Guan. Meanwhile, the celestial spirit great world had just regained sunlight and began to tremble. And the beings who had survived the calamity were once again startled. Particularly the sword cultivators of the world and the Jianghu swordsmen, whose swords buzzed ceaselessly as if ready to unsheath at any moment. Zhu Luo sword monarch, who was pondering the theory of heaven, looked up in disbelief. What a domineering sword Tao! And there are actually two, he murmured to himself. His divine sense quickly reached out into the universe, but his divine sense retracted soon after, and his right hand followed to clutch his chest. His sword Tao had rebounded. Had his reaction not been fast enough, his sword Tao might very well have disintegrated. Though he could not see the figures of Guan and the sword god, he could only see the two vast sword Taos. Even without seeing the masters of the sword Taos, Zhu Luo sword monarch guessed. It must be the supporting Tao sword venerable and the sword god. He had previously guessed that the sword god had come to this universe, but now that the two were actually clashing, he was again astonished. What level of achievement in Sword Dao was needed to possess such vast momentum? The celestial phenomenon lasted for less than 10 breaths, and the heavens and earth quickly returned to calm. However, the beings did not dare take it lightly and remained tense, fearing a greater catastrophe might descend. Elsewhere, in the woods, Guan sat on a rock by the stream, pulling up his attribute panel. Name: Guan, lifespan, 2144/7, 907, 228, 501. Physique: primordial infinite body. Cultivation level: innate golden immortal realm perfection. 79 billion years of lifespan. Before today, his lifespan had only been 1 billion years, and now it had soared by 78 billion years in one breath. Thanks to the battle court, Guan felt grateful in his heart. It was still through killing enemies that lifespan came quickly. Before, he had accumulated a lifespan of 100 billion years, which had taken him so many years. However, he was just thinking about it, and would not go on a killing spree as a result. The lessons from lifespan reincarnation were already abundant. The reason he could grow steadily to this day was that he had concealed his ability to seize lifespan. He even suspected that Silent Destruction God Emperor was so obsessed with the Long clan precisely because Long Zhan grew stronger through slaughter. Perhaps the Silent Destruction God Emperor thought that members of the Long clan could rapidly become stronger through killing, which was why he continuously possessed the descendants of the Long clan. Guan then thought of the sword god he had just clashed with. To prevent his identity from being exposed, Guan had severely injured the sword god. After the sword god escaped, he would probably need many years to recover, but at least he would not die. Whether it was the identity of Long Zhan or Yang Xian, Guan did not want to expose any of them. Lifespan reincarnation was much more advanced than any reincarnations he had come into contact with so far. Lifespan reincarnation could project into the past, the future, and even alter destiny, which was terrifying. Should this matter be exposed, Guan would undoubtedly attract the wariness of more powerful beings. He saw the sword god enter the river of Sword Dao and disappear. The river of Sword Dao, the river of destiny, the river of time, and others were all existences independent of the universe, accessible only through the great Dao. They were dangerous and mysterious, and whether they could lead to other universes was still hard to say. Perhaps the sword god had come through the river of Sword Dao. But Guan felt that the world gates were not for show. To cross universes, one always had to get past the celestial spirit god. Time passed quickly in Guan's thoughts. An hour later, all the beings of heaven and earth finally relaxed. Although they did not know what had happened, the return of tranquility to the world was a good thing. After a little less than half an hour, Yi Xiaoyang and his 4 companions finally arrived at the agreed-upon location. When they saw Guan, they were all pleasantly surprised and immediately rushed over. 3 youths burst into tears on the spot, having been scared out of their wits by the sudden darkness that had fallen over the world. Guan watched them with a smile and did not comfort them, letting them vent on their own. Yi Xiaoyang turned to Guan and asked, "Immortal, do you know why the sky suddenly darkened earlier?" Guan shook his head and said, "How would I know? I only know a little about the art of immortal cultivation." "You really think I'm an immortal? This world is much bigger than you think. It will be more interesting for you to explore on your own than to ask me." Upon hearing this, Yi Xiaoyang fell into endless daydreams. Once they had calmed down, Guan began to teach them the method of qi refinement. The talents of these 5 were not bad. In less than half a day, all had cultivated a thread of spiritual power. It was not until evening that Guan let them go back. Compared to their first farewell, the 5 felt more relaxed, believing that Guan truly intended to teach them. After watching them disappear into the depths of the forest, Guan headed in the opposite direction. With one step, he arrived thousands of miles away. This place was rarely tread by mortals, abundant in spiritual energy, with more plant demons than beast demons. Guan arrived at the top of a high mountain. He stood on the edge of a cliff, his mind moved, and he began to create the Lifespan Dojo. "Please choose the range of your dojo." A prompt appeared, and Guan instantly made a decision. He marked off an area with a radius of 5,000 miles in one go. "You will need to consume 500 million years of lifespan. Would you like to continue?" 500 million years of lifespan. Not too bad. Acceptable. Guan was actually afraid that this thing would consume a huge amount of lifespan. Even an endless amount. If that were the case, he could only give up on the lifespan dojo. As his thoughts concluded, he distinctly felt the space fluctuating. At the same time, a vast amount of memories flooded into his mind. He could control everything in the dojo as easily as he could his own hands. Moreover, he needed to store lifespans in the dojo to fend off powerful enemies. The maximum defensive strength of the dojo equaled his cultivation level, and with each assault it encountered, a corresponding amount of lifespan would be deducted. Guan hesitated for a moment before storing 10 billion years of lifespan in the dojo. In the celestial spirit great world, there would be no one capable of attacking his dojo. The reason he stored 10 billion years of lifespan was just in case. Chapter 500. The person who should not exist. Celestial Court. After establishing the dojo, Guan immediately teleported the world-excluding cave heaven into place, setting it underground. The dojo was a spherical space, buried in the soil, reaching up to the sky. Guan deliberately placed most of the space beneath the ground, so the underground area was larger than that above. After moving the world-excluding cave heaven, he didn't proceed to relocate the 8 scenic cave heavens, but instead called out the 3 celestial demon child sisters. The 3 sisters passed through the ground, and as soon as they emerged, they were captivated by the surrounding mountainous scenery. Their eyes widened as they looked around. Standing at the edge of the cliff, overlooking them, Guan said, "From now on, the land within 1,000 miles is my dojo. You will all live with me here in the dojo from this day forward." Upon hearing this, the 3 sisters were overjoyed, as they could finally live with Guan every day. In a few days, others will come. You won't be alone. If you wish to go out for a walk, I won't stop you, just don't go too far. Guan's next words piqued their curiosity even more. For over 2,000 years, they hadn't met any other beings, but now they eagerly anticipated meeting new people. The 3 sisters immediately flew to Guan's side, chirping away with endless questions. Guan answered patiently, his face brimming with smiles. Seeing them so happy made him feel content as well. 15 billion years of lifespan had not been spent in vain. In the following days, Guan moved the 8 scenic cave heavens and mountain of 10,000 swords from the 3rd Medicine Valley, taking an Exian blood prison great saint and white spirit rat with him. Afterward, he went back to the profound valley alone, summoning Jiangshi and Shengtian to inform them of his departure, and prepare to disperse the disciples of the profound valley. As soon as the teacher and disciple heard this, they immediately knelt down and begged Guan to take them with him. Guan feigned hesitation before asking if they were willing to give up their freedom. Both agreed. Guan deliberately waited a few days to allow the 2 to dismiss the disciples. After all the disciples had left, Guan then teleported the entire profound valley away. Supporting Dao Sword Venerable had departed. This event eventually spread within the Supreme Sect, causing a significant stir. The 3rd Medicine Valley also experienced a brief tumult, with Longqing taking over as Valley Master to prevent the disciples from feeling disheartened. The Supreme Sect's higher-ups began to ingratiate themselves with Longqing, believing that he would become a go-between with Guan. Supporting Dao Sword Venerable was sure to return. Meanwhile, the Holy Court and Immortal Dynasty announced the truth about the calamity from a few days prior to all the world's people. The words Battle Court spread rapidly, and supporting Dao Sword Venerable's merits were widely publicized. In this era where the heavenly Dao was the ultimate truth, the name supporting Dao Sword Venerable made beings feel it was even stronger and more trustworthy than the heavenly Dao for the first time. One evening, Shenzhen stood on the cliff, gazing at the still bustling 3rd Medicine Valley with her eyebrows furrowed and eyes filled with grievances. Beneath her veil, she bit her lip silent. "What are you thinking about?" A familiar voice came from behind, startling Shenzhen as she swiftly turned around. Upon seeing Guan, her eyes sparkled with surprise. How are you here?" Shenzhen began to express her joy, but she held back, asking with a scoffing tone instead. Guan smiled inquisitively, I feel my dojo lacks a scribe. Without her writing, the dojo would be quite dull. Would you like to come? Shinjun's eyes immediately crinkled in laughter. She put her hands on her hips and asked, You still have a dojo? Aren't you leaving this great heaven and earth? Yes, I am leaving far, far away. Would you like to come with me? If you're unwilling, I won't insist. Guan was amused by her posture. He could hear her heart speaking. The girl felt greatly wronged internally. She even muttered some things that gave him goosebumps. You came to invite me personally, so I have to go. Shinjun raised her chin in pride. Do you need to say goodbye to your family? Forget it, I've been away for 2,000 years. Our bond has long since been severed. They haven't written to me in 1,000 years. Shinjun said nonchalantly. Hearing this, Guan didn't ask further and simply waved his sleeve, taking her away. A breeze blew past, leaving no trace of their footsteps. Shinjun only felt darkness before her eyes, and when she opened them again, she was still standing on a mountain, but the scenery in front had changed abruptly. She just happened to witness in Shengtian and Blood Prison great saints sparring figures, battling fiercely in the sky, casting various spells with ease, a truly spectacular sight. The wind stirred up by their combat blew her veil, causing her eyes to widen involuntarily. Elder Shun, you came too? A voice of surprise came through, only to see an Exian appear out of thin air beside Shinjun. Shinjun turned her head to look at an Exian, and was secretly astonished. Such quick speed. Suddenly, she found an Exian gave her an unfathomable feeling. She subconsciously looked back at Guan, relieved to see that he was still there. It's not an illusion realm. An Exian take care of her. Guan dropped these words and then turned and left, preparing to make a trip to the North Sea mountain ridge. Shinjun just wanted to speak when Guan disappeared on the spot. No, you don't understand. I have a feeling that although my master is dead, he still exists. The strengthening sacred heart Sword Tao in the river of Sword Tao is the best proof. The sword god looked up at the starry sky, his gaze unwaveringly firm. The white-haired elder sighed, no longer speaking. After a while, the sword god withdrew his gaze, asking, A celestial Tao golden core has appeared in the shattered celestial spirit great world. It's very likely left by the celestial spirit ancestor. Don't you wish to resurrect? This is an opportunity. The white-haired elder laughed softly. The celestial spirit ancestor's golden core is not easy to take. Do you think the celestial spirit god stands guard there for nothing? The so-called celestial Tao golden core is just bait. After so many eras, I didn't expect the celestial court to still not give up. Chapter 501. 1,000 years, 10,000 years. The morning sun penetrated the mountain forest, shining on the stream, sparkling with light. Guan still sat on that rock. A year had passed since he left the supreme sect, and the Taoist field of the beginningless was already filled with various grades of medicinal herbs. It wouldn't take many years before his yearly income from lifespan would increase. Surpassing the peak would not be difficult. An Exian, Shinjun, and others also began to cultivate in seclusion, and Guan taught Yi Xiaoyang and the other four each day outside the dojo. Yi Xiaoyang and his group had to climb mountains and wade through waters back and forth every day. Initially, it was very tough, but after a year of cultivation, they had grown accustomed to it, even considering this journey as part of their cultivation. While waiting for them, Guan was watching Zhenqin. Since Yilan passed away, Zhenqin had been continuously gaining experience and opportunities outside. Yet, regrettably, she was still about to face her life's limit, and she was still a long way from reaching the Nirvana realm. Zhenqin seemed to sense her celestial mandate, preparing to take revenge on the ghost mother of ephemera. The death of Su Han had always been a thorn in Zhenqin's heart. Her reason to cultivate was also to avenge her senior brother. Su Han, oh Su Han, you thought you were being kind, but have you ever considered that due to your kindness, your junior sister would carry a millennium of vengeance until her death? Guan murmured to himself, lamenting human nature and fate. Su Han's corpse had long been moved by him from the Nianchu cave mansion to the world-excluding cave heaven. currently resting in a cave within the dojo. His soul had gone with the reincarnation long ago, but since his corpse was well preserved, Guan could use causality to seek his reincarnated soul. He hadn't wanted to do so, but seeing that Zhen Qin was about to reach her end, he was considering whether to fulfill his disciple's regret. Just as Guan was pondering this, a piercing sound came. Young Yi Xiaoyang, a year older, charged forward with a wooden sword, swooping like a bird through the forest. Guan raised his hand, circled around his own neck, and caught the tip of the wooden sword between his fingers. Yi Xiaoyang was forcibly stopped, landed on his feet, and subconsciously fell backward. He looked up at Guan and shook his numbing right hand, exclaiming, "Master, you are so powerful. Are you a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator?" Guan stood up, taking the wooden sword in hand, and chuckled. "You found out. With your little skill, you still think of ambushing your master?" Yi Xiaoyang straightened his neck and said, "What do you mean by ambush? I just wanted to show Master my cultivation progress." At that time, the other four also arrived. Bowing to Guan taught them not only cultivation techniques but also proper etiquette and the principles of conducting oneself. In just 1 year, he had imbued these 5 with a spirit of chivalry. Even with their cultivation levels and spells, the 5 did not bully the common people. Instead, they supported the weak and opposed the strong. They had already gained a good reputation within 100 miles of their hometown. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Guan tossed the wooden sword to Yi Xiaoyang, saying, "Today I will teach you the sword control technique." Upon hearing this, the 5 were not very excited, as the sword control technique did not sound like a very formidable spell, especially since they practiced sword fighting regularly. Guan saw their lack of interest but did not say much, instead just began teaching the mantra. Inside the mysterious space, young immortal emperor walked towards the celestial Tao golden core. Looking at the majestic and spectacular celestial Tao golden core, his eyes not as fervent as before. After the disaster of the battle court, he felt that the celestial Tao golden core could not grant him power to dominate everything, and heaven had no intention of saving all living beings. Whether it was the immortal dynasty or the holy court, most people felt a sense of mission to bear the destiny of all living beings. From the moment they stepped onto the path of cultivation, they had done both good and evil, but all felt that as long as they were powerful, they had to protect all living beings. The young immortal emperor felt the same. He believed he was destined to be the lord of heaven and earth and must protect all living beings. He approached Anhao, who was still meditating, comprehending the celestial Tao golden core. "Your master has left," young immortal emperor spoke. Upon hearing this, Anhao immediately opened his eyes and looked at the young immortal emperor, furrowing his brows. The young immortal emperor continued, "He took a few of his disciples and left the celestial spirit great world, and your junior sister was also taken with him." Hearing this, Anhao's tight brows relaxed, and he asked, "It's good that he left. This world is becoming more chaotic. My master can save heaven and earth once or twice, but he can't always interfere, or sooner or later, someone stronger than him will come. With junior sister following him, I can truly rest assured." Young immortal emperor shifted his gaze to the celestial Tao golden core and said, "And how I suddenly feel that this golden core doesn't represent the heavenly Tao." And how looked at him, the firelight of the celestial Tao golden light shining on his face, his expression complex. "So, what do you intend to do?" And how asked. He didn't believe in the heavenly Tao either. He pursued the celestial Tao golden core just to rapidly become stronger. The world's situation was unpredictable, and despite his strong talent, he also felt a sense of urgency. If he were to die on the path of cultivation, in 10,000 years, no one in the world would remember him. Young immortal emperor slowly said, "I want to contend for the theory of heaven." After hearing this, Anhao fell into silence. The mysterious space fell silent along with them, stretching their shadows long. Seasons changed from spring to autumn, and 5 years swiftly passed. The dojo was vast but few lived there, and each day was quiet, which helped calm Guan's heart. Every day, teaching Yi Xiaoyang and the other four, planting flowers and picking herbs, writing books, practicing calligraphy, Guan didn't find it boring at all. Instead, he felt fulfilled. 5 years passed, and Yi Xiaoyang and the 4 others had all reached adulthood and successfully reached the foundation establishment realm. In the scorching summer, within the forest, beside a little stream, Guan looked at the grown-up 5 and felt that time indeed flew by. Master, I want to change my name and be called Yi Qingshan from now on, Yi Xiaoyang suddenly said, and the other 4 spoke as well. I want to change too, my name will be Lin Chuan. My name will be Cheng Meng. I want to change my surname too, call me Gu Changsheng. You shameless, well then, I also want the surname Gu Qingdao. Listening to their words, Guan smiled helplessly and didn't stop them. As the 5 changed their names, their fates too changed accordingly. Guan saw their futures. Guan cleared his throat and said, You have all established your foundations. In a few years, you will surpass your teacher, and I do not wish to be surpassed. Don't come here anymore. Go and seek a broader path towards immortality. Hearing this, Yi Qingshan and the others fell silent. They did not argue. In fact, they had wanted to leave for the last 2 years because they had come into contact with cultivators from the immortal cultivation realm, and knew how vast it was, making their hearts yearn for it. Master, Qingming couldn't help but speak. Before she could finish, Guan raised his hand and said, No need for filial gestures. I came here to isolate myself from the world to cultivate in peace. You have disturbed me for so many years. Isn't it time to let me go? Yi Qingshan immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Guan, the other 4 quickly following suit. Looking at Yi Qingshan, Guan thought of Lu Jiujia. Lu Jiujia's figure merged with Yi Xiaoyang's, transforming into a new person. Guan was not sad. He smiled and accepted their kowtows. Yi Qingshan stood up and said, Once a teacher, forever a father. When we ascend to immortality and achieve the Tao, we will definitely come back to repay you. The others promised as well, and Guan waved them off with feigned impatience. The 5 bowed and took their leave. A few steps later, Yi Qingshan could not help but look back, just as he did the first time he parted from Guan. He saw Guan under the shade of the trees, the feeling of reluctance from his youth resurfacing. Now stronger than he was 6 years ago, he was not swayed by emotions, quickly turning back to disappear into the woods with his companions. Guan stretched his arms and yawned. Twisting his neck, he said, Finally sent them off. See you in 1,000 years. He turned and walked in another direction through the forest. Just as he stepped over the stream, a plump white spirit rat dashed out. It quickly shrank in size and landed on Gu An's shoulder. Master, are those 5 your disciples? The white spirit rat asked curiously, still with the voice of a young boy. Guan laughed and said, Of course they are, why do you ask? You only taught them for a few years before sending them away. I thought they were like the disciples from the 3rd Medicine Valley or Profound Valley. They will come back. They will accompany us for 1,000, 10,000 years, and you will have to be their support. Really? The white spirit rat widened its eyes in surprise. Chapter 502 Once yearned for dark clouds cloaked the sky, and a drizzle fell unceasingly. Between the mountains, trees were toppled. Pits and holes covered the landscape, reeking of the burnt aftermath that extended for 100 miles. A testament to the battle that had occurred. At this moment, 3 women stood in a standoff. Zhen Qin, Jiang Qiong, and the ghost mother of Ephemera, each bearing injuries. The ghost mother of Ephemera, with disheveled hair, stood amidst the wreckage, her face smeared with blood as she scanned her surroundings, trapped by an array of 8 flags. Outside the formation, Jiang Qiong hovered in the air. Her injuries were not as severe as the ghost mother's, but her heaving chest betrayed her exhaustion. Zhen Qin stood atop a cliff, wielding a treasure sword, surrounded by spinning blades that glittered with golden light. She looked down at the ghost mother of Ephemera with a gaze cold as ice. The ghost mother of Ephemera turned to Jiang Qiong and gritted her teeth. Sect leader, after I have supported you for so many years, do you truly intend to help an outsider kill me? Jiang Qiong sneered back. How do you know that she is an outsider and you are not? The ghost mother of Ephemera took a deep breath and said, Aren't you afraid of the supporting Dao Sword Venerable's return? Don't you know that she is the supporting Dao Sword Venerable's disciple? Faced with Jiang Qiong's mockery, the ghost mother of Ephemera fell silent. Zhenqin raised her sword and declared, Ghost mother of Ephemera, today I shall avenge my senior brother Su Han. Upon hearing the name Su Han, the face of the ghost mother of Ephemera did not change. She lowered her head, seemingly resigned to her fate. Immediately, Jiang Qiong cast a spell. The flags around the formation fluttered violently, whipping up a fierce wind that stirred chains of cyan to bind the ghost mother of Ephemera, who did not resist. Zhenqin charged into the formation, her sword slashing through, its frosty light shattering the forest. With one slash, blood spurted and the head of the ghost mother of Ephemera floated into the air. Zhenqin stood behind the ghost mother of Ephemera, slowly straightening up. She turned her head and saw not only blood spurting from her neck, but also flames of a golden blaze. The soul of the ghost mother of Ephemera emerged, unable to escape from her severed neck. Zhenqin, looking upon this, felt no joy, only a sense of relief followed by an overwhelming fatigue. Years had passed, and she no longer hated the ghost mother of Ephemera. Avenging Su Han had become her obsession. Jiang Qiong descended from the sky, looking at the golden flames at the neck of the ghost mother. She clucked in wonder. Are you trying to make her soul disperse? Where did you learn such an evil skill? Zhenqin, devoid of expression, replied. To deal with an evil demon, one naturally uses evil methods. The soul of the ghost mother of Ephemera struggled in agony, silent, but her twisting form was horrifying to behold. A breeze passed, scattering the golden flames around her neck, which alarmed both Zhenqin and Jiang Qiong, prompting them to instinctively look around. Let's end it here. This life's grievances have been settled. A voice sounded, and upon hearing it, Zhenqin stopped mid-sentence. This voice belonged to Guan. Jiang Qiong showed surprise and looked around in search of Guan. The soul of the ghost mother of Ephemera flew out from her corpse. Zhenqin's sword was no ordinary sword. Its slash severed all her lifelines, leaving her either to find a new vessel or wait for reincarnation. Her soul knelt beside her body. As if paying homage to Guan, you have two choices. Guan's voice spoke again, detached as if a god spoke. Reincarnation, to let go of this life's karma and start anew the next life, or redemption, to lose your freedom and continue living. The ghost mother hailed from the Ephemera sect. Though not affiliated with the Ephemera sect that caused chaos in the Taitsong continent, she had harmed many in her lifetime, Su Han being only one. Even when she founded the Gathering Flower sect, she resorted to wicked methods. The reason why Guan offered her a choice was that, at her core, she believed she acted for the supporting Dao Sword Venerable, that she belonged to him. After following the Sword Venerable, she had indeed restrained her methods and attempted to incline towards goodness. Guan did not wholly shield her, not just because of Su Han, as Su Han had long since severed ties with him, but because she genuinely had committed evils. Stopping evil actions did not erase past deeds like smoke. One must bear the consequences of their choices. The ghost mother of Ephemera immediately looked up and shouted loudly, I am willing to follow you, even if I lose my freedom forever. No sooner had her voice faded than her soul vanished into thin air. Peace then returned to all of great heaven and earth. Jiang Qiong pursed her lips and looked toward Zhenqin, offering comfort. Regardless, she is considered dead and probably won't be at ease in the future. Zhenqin took a deep breath and said, I know. Master said she wouldn't let her be free, and she certainly won't. The blood prison great saint was the perfect example. When Guan said to make him a mount for 1,000 years, he indeed suffered for an entire millennium. Seeing that Zhenqin was not fixated on the matter, Jiang Qiong also felt relieved and then asked, What are your plans now? Zhenqin looked into the distance and replied, No plans. After her words fell, her body suddenly leaned backward. Jiang Qiong's eyes widened as she instinctively reached out. However, a hand moved faster to catch Zhenqin's shoulder. Zhenqin looked up, and a smile appeared on her face involuntarily. Master, Zhenqin said weakly. Guan looked at her and sighed softly. Zhenqin had reached the last year of her maximum lifespan. Today's battle had thoroughly drained her vitality. Jiang Qiong was pleased to see Guan, but she didn't speak, choosing to give the time to the master and disciple. Zhen Qin was too weak to speak and soon closed her eyes, her hand naturally falling. This made Jiang Qiong frown. Guan looked toward Jiang Qiong and said, "The ghost mother of ephemera is dead, and the Gathering Flower sect must be personally managed by you." Jiang Qiong nodded and replied, "I know, I will go back soon." She stepped forward, sizing up Guan and said, "Everyone says you've left the celestial spirit great world, but I didn't think you were still here. I said to myself, how could you leave without telling me?" Facing this woman who had greatly helped him in his early years, Guan said with a smile, "If you ever run into trouble in the future, just call for me in your heart." He could hear Jiang Qiong's heart's voice and knew she was not one to leave the secular world, so he did not invite her to the dojo. Jiang Qiong stared at him and asked, "Can I summon you if I miss you?" Guan rolled his eyes at her and replied, "I am very busy." Jiang Qiong huffed coldly and said, "Take her away quickly, don't let her die." She couldn't see the end of Zhen Qin's lifespan, but she could feel her life force rapidly draining, a sure sign of ill. Guan nodded slightly, then disappeared from the spot with Zhen Qin. Jiang Qiong didn't leave immediately, but walked toward the corpse of the ghost mother of ephemera. After working together for over 1,000 years, she didn't want the ghost mother's body to be left in the wilderness. Zhen Qin had a very long dream where she returned to her youth, a time when she, Su Han, and Yi Yan lived carefree in Profound Valley. Back then, they all aspired to reach the Foundation Establishment realm. When Zhen Qin awoke, she opened her eyes to the blue sky. She sat up instinctively, and then saw Guan sitting at a stone table not far away, with an ice coffin next to her. Seeing Guan, her heart settled down instantly. She stood up immediately, ready to go and pay her respects. But as soon as she stood up, she saw the scene inside the ice coffin and froze completely. She couldn't help but blink, but no matter how many times she blinked, the scene inside remained unchanged. How can this be? Zhen Qin became agitated, her body shaking slightly. Inside the ice coffin lay Su Han's body, intact. She looked back at Guan, who was sipping tea, not looking at her. In that moment, Zhen Qin's heart was filled with emotion and shame, and 1,000 words were stuck in her throat, unable to be spoken. Chapter 503. A lifespan of 256 billion years. Guan and Zhen Qin sat opposite each other, and talked for a long time. After seeing Su Han's corpse, the burden and obsession in Zhen Qin's heart completely dissipated, and she returned to her usual lively and clever self. The mentor and disciple talked about the past, endlessly, finding it impossible to cover all the old times. However, everything has an end, including life. When dusk fell, Zhen Qin looked at Guan and said earnestly, "Master, thank you for your care in this life. As a disciple, I've been incapable and have never repaid you. If there is an afterlife and I am worthy of repaying you, I surely will strive to do so." Unlike the ghost mother of ephemera, who though dead, was not at the end of her natural life and could still possess another body to be revived, Zhen Qin's fate had run its course, without any technique to turn back time. Guan smiled and nodded, saying, "There will be an afterlife." Hearing this, Zhen Qin showed a smile, her eyes filled with expectation. She then lay down on the table and whispered, "Master, I feel a bit sleepy. May I sleep here for a while?" Guan nodded and replied, "Sleep, I will stay by your side." Zhen Qin closed her eyes, mumbling, "I suddenly miss Master Yi so much. It feels like she has been gone for a very long time." Guan's hand, which was holding a teacup, paused. He said nothing and continued drinking his tea. After Zhen Qin fell asleep, Shen Zhen came over. She looked at Zhen Qin, about to speak, but her brow furrowed, and she approached Guan asking, "Are you okay?" She knew Zhen Qin's place in Guan's heart and, thinking of how Yilan, Xiaochuan, and others' deaths affected Guan, she couldn't help but worry. "I am naturally fine," Guan said, looking at her with a smile and gesturing for her to sit down. Shen Zhen took a seat, her gaze constantly on Guan. As Guan poured her tea, he said, "Do you think it's absurd? Someone with my cultivation level, yet unable to control life and death? Shenzhen was secretly surprised. How did Guan see through what she was thinking? She spoke truthfully. Indeed, you are the strongest being in my mind. It seems like life and death should be trivial matters to you. But, Guan laughed and said, this means I am not the strongest being. There is a celestial mandate that governs all, and those I help already have good fates. I merely add a touch of splendor. You can glimpse the past and the future, but can you glimpse the celestial mandate? Glimpse the celestial mandate? Shenzhen fell into deep thought. In fact, she was also confused about her own path of cultivation. She didn't enjoy sitting meditation and chi refinement. She preferred the arts and sought to improve her cultivation level through enlightenment, but inspiration was scarce, and her cultivation level had been stagnant for many years. At the very least, it indicated that Guan had no mighty background or extraordinary talent. Reflecting on their master, they felt regret, wishing they had had the chance to repay him. A 1,000 years had passed, and an Exian had entered the Nirvana realm, her aura transcending the ordinary, while I Chingshan and the others were still stuck at the Mahayana realm, unable to find the opportunity for Nirvana. An Exian stood before the stream, smiling at them, awakening them from their reverie as they hurriedly bowed and made a fist-in-palm salute. Senior, I am I Chingshan. 1,000 years ago, I cultivated here for several years. We have now returned in hopes of finding our master. Have we perhaps offended you in any way? I Chingshan spoke first. After all, if someone had claimed this area over the past millennium, they would have no choice but to leave. He couldn't fathom Nzin's cultivation level. Thus he was sure she was an entity of the immortal Tao realm. Even just being a great cultivator at the lowest Nirvana realm would be far beyond their ability to provoke. An Exian laughed. I have been cultivating here for 1,000 years. Could your master's surname be Gu and his given name in? At her words, the 5 displayed great surprise and answered affirmatively, eagerly inquiring about Gu An's relationship with her. An Exian answered, I have indeed met him. He is currently in closed-door cultivation. I have established a dojo in this area. I share a deep connection with him, so if you need assistance in the future, feel free to reach out to me. Hearing that their master was in closed-door cultivation, the 5 were overjoyed, thanking an Exian for her kindness. I Chingshan wanted to ask more about Gu An's situation, but an Exian shook her head, saying no more, and he could only let the matter rest. Senior, we wish to establish a sect nearby to aid mortals in their immortal cultivation. Will we be disturbing you? Chengmeng asked cautiously. An Exian lifted her hand, pointing to the stream before them. As long as your sect does not cross this stream, you won't be causing a disturbance. Guan had informed her that I Chingshan was the reincarnation of Lu Jujia, so she also anticipated what kind of sect I Chingshan would establish. Upon hearing Nzin's response, all 5 felt completely relieved. An Exian turned and walked back the way she had come, leaving them with parting words. The great Tao is long. Do not become blinded by hatred. Your own cultivation is what matters most. These words startled the 5, and they remained shocked until an Exian vanished from their sight. Only then did they come back to their senses. Gu Chongxing asked carefully, did she overhear our conversation or did she divine it? It is said that a great power of the immortal Tao can look at a person and know their past and future. I Chingshan took a deep breath and said, she must have deduced it. Perhaps our master came here originally in search of her. The other 4 also felt this made sense and held an Exian in even greater awe. They didn't linger any longer and turned to leave. When Longqing truly understood his heritage, his feelings were incredibly complex. Inside Longqing's loft, he sat on a chair, silent for a long time. The profound Yuan-free immortal waited for him to accept his heritage. Longqing remained silent for half an hour, then he looked up at the man in black and asked, "You've told me so much, but who are you?" The man in black smiled and said, "My name is Candlestar from the Battle Court, a disciple of the Lord of the War Court. I have lived far beyond your imagination, and much of the history I've told you, I witnessed personally." Hearing this, Longqing frowned. He was not frightened into standing up. Instead, he stared at Candlestar and asked, "If you come from the battle court, why awaken my hatred towards it?" Candlestar laughed and said, "The battle court has strayed, always trying to please the immortal gods. I am not satisfied with that. I prefer the battle court under Emperor Longxin's rule. That was the true battle court worthy of battle's name." As he spoke, his eyes revealed longing and excitement. Longqing's frown deepened. He could not see through Candlestar's intentions, nor could he discern whether his words were true. Candlestar looked at Longqing, raised his hands, and suddenly said excitedly, "Do you know why the battle court targets your Long clan? It's not because you are the legitimate one, but because they fear your bloodline. No, they want to obtain it." Longqing's expression changed, but before he could speak, Candlestar continued, "The real founder of the battle court was Emperor Longxin's father, Long Zhan, also known as Celestial Dragon Emperor. Without experiencing the era's tribulation of the Great Thousand World, he grew rapidly. In every battle, his strength surged substantially. It is said that once after slaughtering an entire great heaven and earth, he managed to cross the 9 heavens of the immortal path in a remarkably short time. Emperor Longxin's talent was also immense, but he turned against the Celestial Dragon Emperor and thereafter ceased creating slaughter." Candlestar grew more excited as he spoke, his eyes even gleaming. He could not only grow stronger through slaughter, but also resist heavenly might. Even crossing the 9 heavens of the immortal path, he managed to successfully cross the tribulation within a day. Such talent, such destiny pattern, is enough to drive the 3,000 great thousand worlds mad. Candlestar's intense gaze made Longqing uncomfortable. Longqing couldn't help but say, "Are you suggesting that the Long clan inherited such talent and destiny pattern?" "Exactly, the grandson of Emperor Longxin once inherited such talent, and that was also why the Long clan headed toward decline." Candlestar replied, his gaze sizing up Longqing with greed filling his eyes. Longqing snorted, "So you want to possess me?" If Longqing and Candlestar could indeed lead the supreme sect to become the ruler of the world, it would be a good thing, providing Guan with a sense of presence as well. Of course, if Longqing were to go astray, Guan would not ignore it. He had protected Longqing, so he had the responsibility to keep an eye on Longqing, to prevent him from walking the path of slaughter followed by his previous life and ancestors. Guan stood up and headed towards the mountain forests. With the establishment of the Qiankuan sect, the sect had been aggressively recruiting disciples, and the number of disciples had quickly surpassed 10,000. With so many people, there were bound to be some who caused trouble. Indeed, someone was heading towards the forbidden area designated by the Qiankuan sect, approaching the Taoist field of the beginningless. Guan felt it necessary to arrange a guard, pretending to be a hermit in deep mountains. An ex-Saiyan, who usually needed to focus on cultivation, didn't have the time to watch continuously. He had just entered the mountain forest when a streak of white light sped over and landed on his shoulder. It was the white spirit rat. "Master, where are you going?" the white spirit rat curiously asked. Guan laughed heartily. "You run around all day full of energy, and you don't cultivate. How about becoming the Demon King?" The white spirit rat's eyes lit up at hearing this. It asked, "Really? Come, I'll transform some demons, and you can choose from them. From now on, you'll be in charge of guarding around the Taoist field, and you will not allow anyone to trespass without permission." "That's great, Master. I definitely won't let you be disappointed," the white spirit rat said excitedly. Even though it had shrunk its rat body, it still looked chubby, laughing like a trembling white fur ball. Guan began instructing the white spirit rat on what it could and couldn't do. This guy was too mischievous. Rules must be established to prevent it from becoming utterly lawless. He couldn't allow it to become like the Cyan Bull Demon under Lord Lao Zi of the Great Monad. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.